Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to. Oh, whoops, hold on. Hello everybody, and welcome to Logos Triumphant, episode number 24, streaming exclusively on Cozy because I am on a week-long ban from YouTube, and we got banned from Twitter. We're basically the most canceled Catholic podcast featuring an Anglo and an Irishman on the internet. And I'm Spexo. I'm here with Pinesap as always. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, man. How are you doing?
Living the dream. So we have a lot of a variety of different topics to talk about. The main thing will probably be about like asceticism and self-denial, which is one of the main tenets of Catholicism, which is obviously denying the physical pleasures and carnal pleasures of the temporal world and stuff like that, and why that's so important in our faith. But we're also going to talk about a lot of stuff that we haven't like covered in the last like 3 or 4 weeks, including like Pope talking about pornography addiction among the clergy and stuff like that, and a bunch of people spurging out about that stuff. But before we do that, we are going to, as always, open with prayer. So, in nomine Patri et Filii et Spiritus Sancti, Amen. Pater noster, qui es in celis, sanctificetur nomen tuum, adveniat regnum tuum, fiat voluntas tua, sicut in cielo et in terra, panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et dimitte nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimittimus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Amen.
Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum. Benedicta tu mulieribus, benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen.
Awesome. So we were supposed to do a show like right after Halloween. I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit of a Halloween experience that I had. So I was in the city like the Saturday night before Halloween, and everybody was dressed in costumes, obviously, for like costume parties wherever degenerates like those go on Saturday nights. And like, I'm not one of those people that are like who spurg out about people celebrating Halloween and think it's satanic or anything like that. Like, I took my daughters trick-or-treating or whatever, like whatever, as long as you're not doing anything like satanic or your intentions aren't evil or whatever. And obviously, as long as you put first that it's all Saints Day or All Hallows Eve and stuff like that, and the 3 days that we celebrate. But like the people that were dressed up in Manhattan where I wanted to like kill these people. Like, there was a girl dressed as a slutty nun who I wanted to like light on fire, right? There was people like dressed in devils and like witches and stuff like that, and like they just think it's like a joke, and like they just don't care. And of course, like, I mean, I don't see many people dressing as like Muslim terrorists or like rabbis and stuff like that. It's always like something to do with like Christianity that they're mocking when it comes to like religious costumes and stuff like that. And not even that, it's like, this isn't really religious, I guess, but like I saw this one girl who was wearing, I guess, like a really slutty bunny outfit. I guess that's like the Playboy bunny or something like that, right? And she was literally basically like naked. It was like lingerie in the middle of the night in Manhattan. And I'm thinking, like, I don't condone rape, obviously, right? But like people say like, oh, what do you think, she deserves to get raped because of what she was wearing? And it's like, it's not that she deserves to get raped. It's that she should expect it. If she's going out wearing a thong like that, like if I went into Harlem with the N-word plastered all over my body or whatever, I would expect to like get stabbed or jumped or something like that. So like when people say like, oh, don't judge women what they wear and stuff like that, it's like, you're wearing a thong in the middle of Manhattan in these horrible neighborhoods, and if somebody rapes her, you're gonna be like, oh, I can't believe this happened. It's like, it's a miracle that she didn't get raped. So I don't know, it put a bad taste on my mouth about Halloween, and I think that all those people should be in jail. So
Well, I mean, the whole thing about it is, certainly we don't want that young woman to be raped or harmed or anything like that. But I mean, this is something that I've said before with feminists. They'll constantly complain about, oh, there's such a rape culture and rape this and rape that. And then like at my school, they're handing out contraception for free. And I'm like, what kind of culture do you think you're promoting? If you're promoting sexual degeneracy, it logically would follow that you would have aggressive acts like that occur. That's not happening. That's certainly not happening at a school that doesn't condone those kinds of things. But a school that does condone those kind of things, it's the logical conclusion of following the flesh. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, dude, I mean, it's literally like someone's suicidal. You put a loaded gun in their hand, and it's like, oh, but make sure you don't commit suicide. It's like, It doesn't make any sense. It's ridiculous. You're sowing the seeds of your own destruction. You know what I mean?
And it also just shows like the nature of women too, to like, because the majority of like young women on Halloween who go out like that, they're like, oh, how slutty can I, they use it as an excuse, like, how slutty can I dress? What can I do to like show as much as possible and leave as little to the imagination? Guys go out on Halloween, they want to dress like, you know, killers or something funny or whatever, or something like shocking or whatever. Girls just want to like show their body. It's like, it just shows like how we need to keep women in line, basically. I guess that's what I'm saying. But oh, so how's your fast from Telegram? I see you've been you taken a break from Telegram for Advent, I guess.
Yeah, I did it with the advice of my spiritual father, my confessor. By and large, just because I found myself to be getting very angry a lot of the times on Telegram, because like I would be constantly checking it. I mean, literally, like I couldn't take my eyes away from it. I'd be like watching something, I'd be on Telegram. I'd be thinking about something, I'd be on Telegram, and it felt like there were so many other issues preceding it, to the point where I was starting to kind of like negate like my own, you know, real life duties and stuff like that, and that kind of addictive quality was really caustic. Not to mention, I it was getting in the way of prayer, and it was getting in the way of just being simple with God, and that's a big no. That's not right at all. And so I wanted to take a step away to kind of recharge. I think reevaluate too what I want to do with the online apostolate, and not just simply be like a simple Catholic meme page, or like a Catholic like news page, in terms of just being like, hey, let's post the story and talk about it or something like that, or go on a feedback loop about this one topic. But I want to start to like really delve deep into like, what does it mean to be Catholic? You know what I mean? Like beyond the pale of, Twitter wars and stuff like that, like in the deep reason of like, why are we Catholic? You know what I mean? Because we get so lost in like the debates and stuff like that, that we really lose the heart of like, why did we make this journey in the first place? You know what I mean?
Based. I don't know why, but I guess because I'm autistic. So as you were talking, it reminded me of religious hippie, right? Because we've been always bashing her and stuff like that. Where like you saying like, well, are you doing this because like you want to like actually spread the faith and do stuff, or are you doing it for like clout or recognition or whatever? Like what are your actual intentions? And obviously not to impart evil intentions, obligatory, blah blah. But that also then reminded me. I just watched this movie of some documentary on Apple TV or something about Selena Gomez, the pop singer, right? And she is literally the secular religious hippie. That's what she reminded me of. So I don't know where I'm going with this. This is just like the thoughts that popped in my head. But she is the worst person in like the history of the world, right? She makes this documentary about her mental health or something, right? And like you're supposed to feel bad for her because she's getting anxiety and stuff like that. Meanwhile, she's has hundreds of millions of dollars. She's waking up in these lavish hotels. People are doing her makeup and whatever. She has servants waiting on her hand and knees or whatever, right? So then she decides like she's just so emotionally distraught that she has to go to Africa, right, to talk to these kids in need. And she's talking to like this African girl who was like, my mom couldn't afford to put me into school, so I had to spend 6 years collecting water from the creek down the block or whatever, and I felt like killing myself, and I decided I was going to drown myself in the river or whatever. And Selena Gomez is like, I know exactly how you feel. It's like, what, bro? You're a millionaire pop star. You're talking to an African girl, and oh, that's my mother-in-law. But it was just so ridiculous, and like I don't know what that made me think of, but I just hate Selena Gomez. Anyway,
That's insane.
yeah, that, like,
I mean, the idea of like this poor young lady who's like talking about like struggles with like actual poverty or something like that, and Selena's like, I know what you mean, girlfriend. I just chipped a nail, and I literally wanted to go throw myself in the river.
I know, like I wanted to be like, yeah, do you know when your servant doesn't like bring you your sushi on time? Like what? No, I'm in Africa. What are you talking about? But yeah, like these people are just so out of touch, and like I mean, this will actually carry over to our like other topic of like materialism and stuff like that. But these people are so attached to materialists, and they get so wealthy or whatever, that they just become totally out of touch with reality. And not to say that these people can't have like mental problems too or whatever, but the way that they present themselves, because she's obviously putting this documentary out to like get sympathy or to like say like I could relate to you, but nothing she is doing in the entire documentary, her lifestyle is not relatable to any normal person in the world. It's just retarded. But
Absolutely not.
so that had nothing to do with anything we plan on talking about. It just popped in my head. But what were we gonna say? Oh, I guess I wanted to talk because we were just talking about it before when we were in the lobby or whatever. But so I went to my college this weekend, and it was like one of the most like nostalgic but bittersweet, depressing moments of my life, because that's like I went to everybody. Most people know my story. I went to college for like a year and 2 months, because 2 months I squatted at my friend's dorm, right? And in that year and 2 months, it like completely changed my life and my like outlook on life and stuff. And like I was a complete total degenerate, drug using, horrible, terrible person. I was probably at my worst in college, but like those experiences and the fact that I joined a fraternity, and it was like camaraderie, and it was also the first time that I was on my own and free, and like I could do whatever I want, which obviously was, you know, a double-edged sword, has its negative and positives. I obviously didn't use it for good or whatever, but like my intention was always to continue college and continue living there and to like be part of my fraternity's alumni board and all that stuff. And like just things didn't work out the way I intended them to, but like I always had that in the back of my head, like these regrets of like, I should have done this, I should have done that or whatever. So on Facebook, I saw that they were having their 100-year alumni for the fraternity. So I was like, I have off, I might as well go. I told my wife, and she was like, yeah. But then I decided I wasn't going to go, and then my wife kind of convinced me. She was like, you've been talking to me about college ever since we met, just let's go, let's get it out of your system or whatever, right? So I was like, all right. So we go to it's upstate New York by Buffalo. It's like this tiny little town. There's like 2 streets or whatever, which that's another thing too. It's really close to like Amish people, right? And everybody is basically white, and like it's super spread out. Everybody's basically kind of like hillbillies or whatever. And I'm going around this town, and I see gay pride flags and Ukraine flags, and I'm like, how is this like disease spread to like these tiny little towns all over here, right? It was retarded. So anyway, we get there, and then I talk to all my fraternity brothers that I actually knew who were supposed to be going, and they all tell me that they're not going now. So now the only people going are like 50 and 60-year-old alumni that I never met before. And I'm like, okay, if I go, it's just going to be awkward. So I was like, all right, let's just go to Niagara Falls. So we went to Niagara Falls, and then we came back, and like we were going through the college town, and like just going through the town, and like just seeing all the landmarks that it was like literally like a TV show where like they go back 25 years later to like their hometown, and like the memories just start flooding in or whatever, right? And it was like really like depressing. So then I was like, let me see where my new fraternity house is. I Googled it, and we went there, and there was fraternity brothers on like the roof. And I pulled up, and I never met these people before. I was like, hey, what's up? Is this Kappa Psi? And they were like, yeah, who's asking? And I was like, oh, I'm an alumni. And they were like, oh, you are? What? You got to come in, blah, blah. They invited us in. They showed me a tour of the house. My name was still on the wall and stuff like that. And I was like, it was like just so bizarre and like nostalgic. And like, it sucks because like we were talking about before, I love where my life is right now and stuff like that, but I still have like all these like regrets and like things that I wish I could have changed, but obviously like I couldn't change them because everything needed to happen the way that they happened in order for me to end up here. But like, it's like, I wish I could change so many things, but still end up in the position I am. Right. And like all the friendships that I had that like I let like go away and stuff, and all the people who knew me when I was like a scumbag junkie or whatever, like that's still like the thought that they have of me because they haven't seen me in 9 years. Like I wish that I could have all the mentality and all like the stuff that I know now and like change so many things, but I know that I can't, and I know that it's God's will, and it just sucks having to like to accept that and deal with that, you know. And like there's no like, because of the way my life is, there's no real way that I could ever change all the stuff that I did, you know.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things where sometimes we go through an experience in life where, you know, we feel as if that we wish it would have gone differently. We wish it would have gone down differently and stuff like that. You know, when we were talking about this one time to sort of relate, maybe not to nearly the extent, you know, of your situation, but, you know, I've kind of stayed in past, you know, sometimes I wish like my high school experience was a little better. You know what I mean? Like I felt like sometimes I kind of was so pessimistic about it. I just watched the 4 years drain by and I was like, maybe I could have valued it a little bit more, you know? But I think the thing about it, and we were also talking about this, is, you know, everything winds up working out for a reason. and everything winds up turning out sometimes better than we would expect it to. You know what I mean? Like, I could have maybe had like a great high school experience and then wound up going to a different college that wouldn't have left me down the path to become Catholic, or, in your case, Spexo, like maybe you'd stay those 4 years, but, you didn't meet the love of your life, and you didn't get on this journey to make this great Catholic podcast that is edifying so many souls and stuff like that. And you would have just been like, normal hanging out in the suburb or something like that, and even though we can always ask, what if this happened or what if that happened? It goes back to an old story about, I actually was reminded of this, if you don't mind me sharing this story, and it's a fantastic tale. I'm going to sort of paraphrase what I remember about it, but the devil, in this one story, appears to three monks, and he says, I can give you anything you want. Like, I can change anything about the past or something like that. And so the monks are kind of going through with him and saying, like, I wish that, like, Jesus never had to be like crucified or something like that. And I think like every single time they like fail or something, the monk like suffers, right? And like feels this like pain or is like damned or something. And then the second monk is like, I wish for a world, a future world without like any sin or whatever. And then like the third monk says, like, be gone, devil. Like, I'm not even engaging with you. And the devil, like, splits. And like the two other monks are like, well, what did you do that made him like leave? And he's like, we can't change what is or what will be. We just have to throw ourselves onto God's providence and abandon ourselves to God's providence. Because it can sometimes be a temptation from the devil to get us so locked into, either anxiety about our future or anxiety about our past, of saying like, oh man, I wish this happened or that happened, or if only this happened, my life would be so much better. But what is past is what is past, but we still have a beautiful future to walk with God, and that's unpainted yet. You know what I mean?
True. Yeah. It was just like, yeah, because, and like, of course I know that, like nothing can be changed or whatever, but it's very hard to really, I guess, accept that, I guess, like it, like, and not just accept it. It's like, sometimes I just can't control it. Like that is literally like the source of like all my depression, it seems. Like sometimes like I'll just like have like thoughts of like something I did in college that was either fun, or something that I did that I embarrassed myself that I wish I could change, or something along those lines. And it's like, I feel like you never know when you're in special moments, as gay as that sounds. You know what I'm saying? Like, you never know when like you're in like the good times or whatever, and like then like they pass, and like you're like, oh, I wish I would have appreciated that more. I wish I would have like took the time to realize, like, look where I am now or whatever. And like, but also thinking like that can distract you from where you're living now, because like where I am now is a miracle. Where I am now is great. And like, maybe I'll feel the same way about how I feel about 10 years ago in 10 years, when I say, oh wow, 10 years ago when I was 29 doing that podcast or whatever, that was the good times. You know what I'm saying? So it's like this paradox, but I guess it's all just like part of life.
Well, and also to say with it, maybe the heart, get to the, or not even get to, but pray about the heart of the reason of maybe why you're feeling this way. Maybe you feel as if like your life does not have like enough excitement right now, and so it's making you feel like there's this loss. Maybe there's a situation of like if I'm to relate to you, my brother, like with my high school experience, sometimes I think the reason I lament it so much is because sometimes I feel like my life doesn't have enough socialization, or I'm not making enough friends or doing enough things with people, right? And so, sometimes it's a, as funny as it seems to be something in the past, sometimes it's maybe a loss that we're feeling in the present, where we're saying, I'm not having this thing right now that makes life feel better, and maybe that's something that needs to be fixed in order for me to more appreciate the time I am living in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's like a twofold thing. I think it has to do with remember the story I told you about that kid Timmy, who like was my best friend or whatever, and he was the reason that I actually went to that college or whatever. So it has to do a lot with like him and like the fact that like we fell off or whatever, and also the fact that like my life was on this like trajectory where I could have had it super easy. Like all I had to do was go to class basically. All I had to do, I had a totally free ride through college. All I had to do was go to class and do what I was supposed to do and do the right thing. And then I joined this fraternity and I was like king of the campus. Everybody respected me because I had these letters on or whatever, right? And like I just messed it all up. Right. And like so it's like a twofold thing of that, not necessarily where I'm at now, because like I said, I love where I'm at now. It's that like I feel like I don't know, not that I didn't go down the path that I was supposed to or whatever. It's like that I had the option to go down this other path that I didn't take. But like I also said, it's a contradictory like complex, because if I went down that path, I might not have ended up being married, having a house, having kids, having all this good stuff that I have now, you know? So it's just like a never ending paradox that goes through my brain. And it's not like, it's like, it used to be really bad. Like when I first left college, it was like a legit suicidal, debilitating depression for like 2 years straight. Right. And like it slowly subsided or whatever, but it never really like truly left. So yeah, that's basically what it is. But it's not like super strong anymore or whatever, but it's still like there.
Oh, absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Sorry, my mom was trying to call me while we were on stream. But no, I mean, and maybe what it sounds like is I'm not, I'm not a psychologist or anything like
you
that.
Should
But but from a standpoint is, it almost sounded like there was a lot of momentum and there was a lot of potential that you felt like was lost. You know what I mean? Like you stated the thing about being like respected, right? And how, when you had that Letterman's jacket, you felt like you were respected by the entire campus and you had that respect. And then on top of that too, kind of having to be an easy life, right? Like a financially easy life. And I guess, the solution to those problems would require more prayer than the time we have allotted to be able to kind of talk it out. But I think the thing about it is, not I hate having to keep going to comparisons about you now versus you back then, because I feel like then I'm just lecturing you about, you should like what you have now and stuff like that. And I hate coming off as
no, but it's true. I know.
But I mean, like, think about the fact that even though the people that are online are not IRL people, I mean, you have people who know your name, who respect you, who see you as this authority, who have had like their lives changed because of what you've done, and it was a respect too that wasn't fading. I mean, like the Letterman's jacket respect, I've even noticed this with college. People will respect you certainly while you're on campus, but once they leave, they go back to wherever they're from, and you probably never talk again. Like, you might follow each other on social media or whatever, but it's like, it's just not the same connection anymore. You know what I mean? Whereas you have people who substantially look up to you. You have a guy right here who you influenced, when I was coming to shut up. I mean, you literally did influence me when I was coming to the church. You made a name for yourself online. You braved, I mean, the amount of respect that, like, I mean, I remember when we first got on Cozy and Baked called in and he said how much respect he had for you, that like even when you were doing the original show Optical Descent and you felt like there was like a rough patch or something like that, you bore it in such a way that was like people like recognized your maturity. Right? You didn't become like a seether, you didn't hate anyone or anything like that. Like you bore it in such a way that like what came out of it was so much sweeter, and you took it as a moment to like rebrand and everything, and now you have like a definitive like culture that is centered around something that you've created, and you've created a community.
I appreciate
like that outlasts you more than even a college fraternity, you know. And in terms of maybe solutions for life right now, you know, I know I said this to you before we went live, but you know, maybe this is what you're missing is that that in real life community building, you know, because college is like a community, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're on one campus, you're together, you're talking and stuff like that. So maybe it's a prompting of saying, I'm feeling like there's some community that's like lost in my life, and I would love to have that community back and be respected. And maybe that's something I can help you build or find or something like that. And you can have something that's even sweeter than anything you could find on a college campus, you know?
Wow. Yeah, that's that's like the best thing, because I've talked to so many people about this. This is like the best advice and like that anybody ever gave me. So I really appreciate that, and that was very nice of you to say. So, all right, before we get all sentimental, all right. So Grant Friedland, our friend of the show, asked. He says, "Praying for you guys and your family. Also, can you respond to how we should respond as Catholics to those who say you get no girls or laid or touch grass? I am just curious a response to this without being prideful or overly defensive."
You know, I will probably come off as kind of, I don't know, sensitive or what have you. I don't really care. I'm kind of a little over the whole internet lingo and the whole, you know, the kind of disrespect that goes on the internet, because, you know, what it's doing in our culture and what it's doing in our lives is we're no longer seeing each other as people, but we're seeing each other as obstacles that have to be knocked down. And that's part of the reason why we live in the culture that we live in. I mean, like, you know, our culture, our culture that practices abortion, our culture that devalues marriage and stuff like that. What is the theme that runs through all those idea specs though?
What's that?
It's take, it's mine. Mine. I want this. It's mine and it's mine for the taking. And when we use terms like that, you know, and we say things like to people like that online and stuff like that, what it says is this is a person in my way, mine. I need to destroy this person. I need to annihilate them. They're my enemy. They're every insult that's ever come my way. They're every you know, mean look and smirk and turn down from a girl, and you know, parent telling me I wasn't enough and teacher telling me I was foolish or what have you, that I need to destroy this person. And that kind of hate is not what is allowed in the kingdom of heaven. That kind of hate is not what Jesus Christ would command of any of us to do. Jesus is you know, the Prince of Peace, and what he wants us to do is, you know, establish that reign of peace by treating other people um, as what they are, our brothers and our sisters. Because, you know, whether you like it or not, you are related to every single human being on this earth. You know what I mean? And I know that can be hard to hear. There's some people that I don't want to be related to, you know what I mean? But um those people, you know, my father once said it best, and I never forgot this, but he said, it's sad to think that every single person you see was once a baby. Like, think about like a little like baby girl or a baby boy, and how much you love that baby girl and baby boy, and you want to protect them and you want to coddle them and stuff like that. But we grow older, and suddenly it's like that's not someone I want to protect or coddle or love anymore. That's someone I want to hate and someone I want to curse out and be like, "Hey, F you," and get out of my way and stuff like that. And what's lost in that is that love that heals and nurtures and plants and gives root. And so to it, the long short of answering your question, Grant, is I would say that those terms are not appropriate for any even humor or comedic purposes. I think we need to be called to a higher discipleship of love.
He was asking what the response should be when people say that to him.
Oh, bro, I'm sorry. I started delivering some sermon or whatever. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I'm a little tired. Excuse me for that. The response, well, actually that's not too far off keel. The
That was
response
awesome.
should be, I was actually talking to this with a friend the other day or today, who was telling me about some difficulties that he was having, you know, with some people. And I said, you know, the idea of turning the other cheek, or, you know, meeting hate with love, at first when you hear that, especially as a guy, you think to yourself like, yeah, okay, I'm being told to be submissive and to let the other person win and stuff like that. But what's funny about actually Jesus's Sermon on the Mount, and when he's saying, love your enemy and turn the other cheek, is how when you would turn the other cheek in Hebrew culture, right? They would have to slap you with the other side of their hand, which is actually seen as effeminate. It was seen as weak, right? If your enemy told you, I want you to carry this 1 mile, and you're like, no, dude, I'm going to carry it 2, you were showing a prowess of strength, right? You were showing that you were stronger. You're like, dude, 1 mile, that's not nothing. I can carry this 2. And so what's beautiful about the Sermon on the Mount is not only is Jesus saying to us, meet hate with love, but also that love is so powerful that it overcomes hate. It makes hate and like insults like that and stuff like that look foolish. You know what I mean? And so if someone says, go touch grass, think of maybe a charming response to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, say repent and convert, faggot. I'll pray for you. No.
yeah, I mean, say, I can't think of a snappy line to join that, but say something that's maybe kind of wise, or like makes the other person, not hateful, but makes the other person think, or like, someone says you can't get laid. I mean, I know I'm reviving a dead meme at this point, but just be the Nordic gamer chat and just say, yes, I'm incel. I'm celibate. You know what I mean? And being like, the flesh is evil. You know what I mean? Like, that's something to be proud of, So.
But I would also say, though, that people that are saying those things are clearly just doing that to insult you because they're not trying to have a real conversation with you. It's kind of like when we say cope, seethe, dilate, shut up. Like, we're just basically shutting you down. We're not taking you seriously. We're not trying to have a conversation with you. That's their defensive mechanism to do that because they don't want to engage in a serious conversation. So it's not even a fruitful discussion that you're trying to have. So if they're just throwing insults at you, you shouldn't even really be engaging with them, unless you're just going to troll them back or whatever. Like, if you try to actually have a charitable discussion with somebody who is in that mind state, and then they just continue to throw insults at you, I would just say that you should just remove yourself from the situation and not even engage with them.
Don't cast your pearls before swine, right?
So true. Okay, so let's see. So the Pope, I guess a couple of weeks ago, was talking something about that pornography addiction is so rampant that it even affects clergy. And even the clergy and nuns, priests and nuns, have to have struggled with that, and they can't let it affect them, or they can't give into that because it's letting the devil in, or something along those lines, or whatever. And when I read this, I was like, yeah, that's a good thing. He's talking about the dangers of pornography and that nobody's safe from it. And everybody online was spurging out, saying this causes scandal to say that priests could have an addiction to pornography and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, but what do you mean? It's a good message. He's saying that like nobody is safe from this horrible thing, and he's condemning pornography. It's like, well, I don't understand. So how do you feel about that? Do you think that saying that the clergy sins, which everybody should know, clergy are still humans, they can still sin, like, do you think this was scandalous in any way or what?
Oh, I've got a good question. Did St. Leo the Ninth scandalize the entire church when he talked about rampant homosexuality in the clergy at the turn of the first millennium?
Boom. Just got sapped.
Huh?
No, I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know.
Oh, I know. I was saying that rhetorically. I wasn't saying that to you. I wanted to have a little bit of a go-off moment, so I'm gonna have my Eminem 9 mile or 8 mile go-off moment. This is what Dr. Robert Fastigi is talking about when he says these people just hate the Pope. They will take any opportunity, they will take any moment, they will take any single moment they can to scandalize our brothers and sisters in Christ and be like, oh, the Pope is, saying these things. Like, I remember, I can't remember what encyclical it was. I think it was for Fratelli Tutti or something. And one of the arguments that they were using online is, oh, well, the numbers of times he references Jesus and God in the encyclical is twice. What's funny about that? Rerum Novarum under Leo the 13th also references Jesus twice. And you don't knock Leo the 13th for that. So why are you knocking Pope Francis? And again, I ask the same question. St. Leo the 9th wrote the foreword, or wrote the papal approbation, right? The papal exemplification to Saint Peter Damian's book Libris Gomorrah, the Book of Gomorrah, that talked about pedophilia, homosexuality, adultery, bestiality, like all the evils that were going on in the clergy at the time at the beginning of the Gregorian Reform. And you don't knock him for that, but then you knock the Vicar of Christ for doing the exact same thing because what? You are angry. You need to get offline and you need to just go pray. And I think you need to go to confession too and clean out that dirty mouth.
Based.
I like how these people think that all the saints in heaven would be on their side. No, not a single one, dude. You have got to change your life, and you've got to start changing the way that you talk about the sweet Christ on earth. Because if you do not, you're going to be going to all the same place of every other person who rejected the papacy, which is hell. So I'm throwing down the gauntlet on that.
And I was just having a discussion with somebody that came into my chat, and he was like, because I posted something about converting Jews or something like that, and he said, well, unfortunately, the ordinary magisterium has been complacent on not converting Jews. And I was like, what are you talking about? We got into, and basically it was the common thing where he was mistaking proselytism with evangelization, which you taught me about, obviously. And I was like, it's not the same thing. Proselytization means like by converting by means of force or manipulation or something along those lines. We are still called, even in Nostra Aetate or whatever. You would have been proud of me. I was pulling up like encyclical quotes and stuff like that, right? And yeah, and so I was like. That was another one with Rob too. But so anyway, so then I told him and that like he was like, oh well, the popes are complicit or whatever, and I was like, okay, but they're not saying not to convert Jews. They're saying not to forcefully do so or whatever. And he was like, okay, well this statement is vague and ambiguous. And I was like, okay, if it's vague and ambiguous, as laymen, we are not to impart evil intentions on our authority figures, especially the Holy Father. Like we are supposed to try to interpret anything that may be vague or ambiguous in the most charitable way possible, right? And he was like, yeah, but that causes scandal, and they're going to have to answer to God, blah, blah. And I was like, well, if they are purposely doing something ambiguous or vague, they will have to answer to God, but it's not our position as laymen to put that judgment on them or suppose those notions onto them or whatever, right? And I think you would have liked the conversation. But it's like all these people, that's all they do is like, if there's something vague, which don't get me wrong, you can have charitable critiques of what the Pope says and does or whatever, but his whole argument was that it was a part of the magisterium. Statements that are made by the Pope, just as like in an interview or whatever, do not become part of the magisterium or become authoritative in any way. You can freely disagree with personal opinions of the Pope. And then he agreed with me, and I was like, okay, but that's not what you're saying. You were saying that the magisterium changed, that the teaching of the church changed. That's not what happened. You can disagree with a cringe statement from a priest or the Pope or a bishop or anything like that, but you were literally saying a lie, whether intentionally or not, that the magisterium said that we can't convert Jews anymore. That's not what happened.
That's not what happened at all. And the other thing is too, again, even with a private statement from the Holy Father, we should still give the judgment of charity. We should still, and I'm across the board on this too. I mean, there's old statements from, Pope Innocent III that people take issue with. During the Albigensian Crusade, it was either him or one of the leaders where there was this whole event where they're like, how can we tell the Albigensians versus the Catholics? And someone said, kill them all, God will sort them out, right? And I think the statement actually was forged. I don't think it was ever said. But I mean, it's like, it's just such a disproportionate response. And it's like these same people have profile pictures of like Saint Pius X or something like that, and they're like trad Cath Crusader, 1884. And then I would kind of laugh if they almost took like a time machine, went back in time, said these same things, and they're like, wait a minute, why are the fathers of Vatican I anathematizing me? I'm right. And suddenly they're being like condemned as like a heretic, and they're like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. I thought I was supposed to be at the Chad SSPX parish.
Yeah, so true. It's ridiculous. Yeah, these people, they really, it's like they thrive. They want to be mad. They want things to be worse than they are. Like, and it's like, it's the black pill. That's what it is. It's like you learn certain unfortunate truths or whatever, and then that makes everything bad. It sours everything for you, and you can't have anything good. Also, is it true? Because I don't think it is, but people were sharing this too, that the Pope said that there was no hell. Because I specifically remember him giving a sermon or something about the mafia, saying that you need to give up your ways or you're going to go to hell. So I don't think that's true.
How about the fact that in Gaudete et, I think it's called Gaudete et Exoles, if I'm getting that right. Oh, Gaudete et Exultate, which is his great encyclical on actually spiritual combat. I mean, what Pope Francis is talking about in that entire encyclical is sin. Well, if he doesn't believe that, and he talks about the enemy, and he talks about Satan, and he talks about, all the, all the evils of sin and stuff like that. It's like, this is clearly not someone who, who does not believe in hell, because why would he even be, warning against these things? I mean, I got a point 150 or paragraph 159 open here right now, where he says, "We are not dealing merely with a battle against the world and a worldly mentality that would deceive us and leave us dull and mediocre, lacking in enthusiasm and joy." Wait, what? Pope Francis is an enthusiast? No, I'm just kidding. But and then he goes on to say, "Nor can this battle be reduced to the struggle against our human weaknesses and proclivities, be the laziness, lust, envy, jealousy, and others. It is also a constant struggle against the devil, the prince of evil. Jesus himself celebrates our victories. He rejoices when his disciples made progress in preaching the gospel and overcoming opposition of the evil one. I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven." Luke 10:18. And then he literally goes on to say, more than a myth. And then in 160 talks about how, the devil's real. Literally, the sentence says, "We will not admit the existence of the devil. We insist on regarding life by empirical standards alone, without a supernatural understanding."
Based.
I mean, it's like, dude.
He also literally said, like, that infographic of like all the base quotes that he said, where he was like, "When I talk about left wing, I mean homosexual," and he like he appointed like a flat earther to like one of the positions or whatever and stuff. And it's like people just disregard anything base that he does or whatever, and they just focus on everything that they disagree with or that is questionable and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's like they forget that the Pope is still a human being. Like they think that like yes, he has a different standard to like live up to, obviously, but like he's still a man. He's still capable of not doing the right thing 100% of the time, and like people just like go insane and spurg out about it. Let's see. Oh.
And I don't think these people, bro, would have been able to survive like the pornocracy or the Borgia popes or anything like that. I mean, like those times were really bad. Like Benedict IX was like one of the worst popes that we've ever had, to the point where I think it was Pope Victor VIII called him like the devil took the throne of Peter. Like that's how bad he was, right? I mean, like there were some really heinous popes, and popes that were unfair too, like that would just like shut down religious orders randomly that were doing really well, that would punish people. I mean, a lot of the saints even sometimes would be unjustly punished. Like Saint Alphonsus Liguori was banned from saying mass for 8 years by the Pope.
That's crazy.
And do you know how he responded?
How? Obedience?
He literally obedient. He said like the Pope has spoken, and I love the Pope with all my heart.
Yo, is there a book of Alphonse Liguori? Because Epic Daily Catholic or whatever, he always is posting like the most epic quotes from Saint Alphonse, and like I'm like, does he have like a book or something? Like, what did he write?
Does he have a book? Try like 200.
Really? Oh, based.
Yeah, a lot. Dude, actually, I gotta get you into St. Alphonsus Liguori. He probably is now going to be like one of your favorite
He already is, just by the stuff that I see, like the quotes.
Do you know what one of his books is called, Spexo?
Oh, somebody just wrote Moral Theology?
Moral Theology is one. He literally has a book called A History of Heresies.
Based.
And I think you would love that book, dude. It's really awesome, actually.
Let's go. Awesome. Yeah, I gotta get into him because, like I said, every time I see a quote, I haven't seen one quote that I was like, oh, I disagree with this. I was like, yeah, every quote is like amazing.
Well, and
Go.
and he, you struggle with scrupulosity, right? Hold
Oh
up one
yeah,
moment.
let's go. Let me just pull out my Saint Alphonse scrupulous book.
So he does actually have like some books on scrupulosity, but this book is actually written by Redemptorist priests, which Redemptorists are the order that he started.
Oh,
Um, and this book, like they talk about like half the time they're quoting Saint Alphonse's Liguori in this book, and I mean it's because
what is it?
he
Understanding Scrupulosity by who?
by Father
Thomas
Thomas
M.
M.
Santa.
Santa, and
Based.
so I got this book actually yesterday. I sat on my couch. I read about like 5 pages and I started to cry because it was like I feel like I always say stories about how I cry, but like I cried because like the things I was getting, the words I was getting in this book from like our Lord himself, from Saint Alphonsus talking about our Lord and stuff like that, about like how much like he loves people in our position and like how the Lord's not looking to like damn us or strike us with a lightning bolt, but like he really like understands our suffering and stuff like that. And Saint Alphonsus kept coming up and quoting, um, like it made me realize like scrupulosity is not like like the end, right? Like you're not damned by it. You're not damned by what might just randomly appear in your head or whatever. And I mean, Saint Alphonsus was integral in dealing with that because he used to really deal with it bad, man. I mean, I mean, him and Saint Ignatius of Loyola were so scrupulous that Saint Ignatius didn't like to step on things that like remotely looked like a cross. So literally, if there was like a tile on a floor that went like this, vaguely to a cross, he thought he was blaspheming by stepping on that part of the tile.
Wow.
So I mean, like Saint Alphonsus Liguori is great because he's a crazy Catholic reactionary like you are, but he also struggled with scrupulosity and is really integral in helping talk about the Lord's love that God has for us. You know what I
Based.
mean?
I gotta check him out. I definitely want to look into some of his writings and stuff. Somebody was saying that people need to take hell more serious, and that's
Yes.
I think that's like so true. I feel like even myself, like if we truly believe that like if we die in a state of mortal sin, then if we're in a mortal sin, then we would make it the most important thing to get to confession immediately so we don't die in that state, and like do everything we can to not offend God and to live the faith as much as possible. And like I know that it's not true because everybody just, it's in our nature to sin and we're always going to like probably end up continuing to sin, but it's just like it's like a paradox to me. It's like if we truly believe, which I truly believe in hell and I truly believe in the teaching of the church and stuff like that, but yet I still continue to sin, and it's like it almost makes me like, well, then how do I truly believe if like I'm still going to sin when I know what the consequences are? And like am I just like, oh well, God will just have mercy, I'm trusting God's mercy or whatever, but I know that's not how it works. So it's like this paradox in my head I get sometimes.
There's a really hard part of the book, Way of the Pilgrim, where the part of the book is called Confessions of the Sinner. And in that part of the book, he says, because the author is anonymous, he says, it's tough to listen to. So the section is called The Confession of an Interior Man Leading to Humility. And these are the points that he says. The first one, I do not love God. For if I loved him, then I would be constantly thinking of him with heartfelt satisfaction. Every thought of God would fill me with joy and delight. On the contrary, I think more and with greater eagerness about worldly things, with the thought of God and present difficulty and aridity. If I loved him, then my prayer communion with him would nourish, delight, and lead me to uninterrupted union with him. And then he goes on to say, I do not love my neighbor. And he like goes into like what he's done that is affirmed that he has not loved his neighbor as much as he should. And he said, I do not have faith in spiritual realities. And then goes on. And all this is to say is not him saying that, oh, I don't want to, or I reject the church's teaching, or I'm an atheist. But he says, if I truly believe, I have to carry my cross and I have to progress further towards God.
So what do you think? It's like just a constant, it's like a progressive thing that we just keep getting closer to God or we like because we're just gonna keep sinning?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, our whole life is, St. John Climactus. I haven't read his work, but I know he gives this image of the ladder of divine ascent, where life is like climbing a ladder to heaven, right? And we're not truly there till we're there in our Lord's arms. But along the way, there's a lot of temptation, there's a lot of doubt, there's a lot of despair, but it's that constant purification, that constant theosis that we go through during the course of our life and in union with God, that all the saints talk about, St. Thomas Aquinas and all the great doctors of the church, that is our spiritual life. And it's tough, it's hard, it's not easy, but it's through that process that we truly come to love God and truly give everything that we can for him. And at the same time, this journey should not discourage us, because as the Holy Scripture tells us, the righteous man stumbles 7 times a day. So even when we stumble, it's not that God doesn't love us anymore. God knows our plight. God knows the state of sin that we were born into by the fall. And he wants to offer us every grace to come closer to him. It's just whether or not we're willing over the course of our lives to say yes to his graces or no.
So true. All right, that's good. I wanted to ask you about the Irish priest that was, I guess, I don't know if he was laicized or if he was suspended or something, but an Irish priest gave a homily, and in the homily he talked about common Catholic teaching that gay marriage or whatever is sinful and blasphemous, and he said that contraception is evil and just common stuff or whatever, and his bishop like suspended him and apologized on his behalf and stuff, and like it's like a really messed up situation. I don't know if you were aware of it.
I am.
Yes.
And I'm very disappointed with it. I actually have thought about hopefully seeing if I could contact Father and write him an email of encouragement in this time, because I know there's going to be a lot of people that are egging him on to say, go against your bishop, tell him to go, flip himself off or what have you. But, there are so many saints who went exactly through what Father is going through, where there was a bishop, man, that was not a good bishop. There was a bishop that was, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to His Excellency, but weak or, cowardly or, didn't want to stand up for the truth or something like that. And there were many times where there were just men who got persecuted. But the thing about it is that their sacrifice is never in vain. God hears the plight of his people, and he hears the plight of his sons and daughters who suffer for righteousness. We think about the Beatitudes, right? Blessed are those who suffer, for they shall see God, right? And so we know that even those who suffer for the sake of righteousness will be blessed, even though the suffering is difficult and it's lengthy. I just want to pray that the bishop's heart may not be hardened against this great priest. I hope that the bishop can stand up for the teaching of the church in a secular world when the flock needs it the most. I pray that this priest may feel spiritually nourished in a time of such discouragement. And for anyone who hears a story like that and gets discouraged, this, unfortunately is not uncommon in church history. I mean, St. Francis of Assisi went through it. St. Alphonsus Liguori, St. Catherine of Siena, I'm pretty sure. St. Teresa of Alvia, St. John of the Cross. A lot of just men and women went through this very thing under their bishop, people who were supposed to protect them, right? But the thing about it is that they always endured. And so I pray that Father may endure and that he may be the saint that we need for our times.
And why do you think that, like, maybe the Pope or somebody higher than the bishop is allowing this? Like, don't you think that this was an international news, and this clearly had to get to people higher up that had to have seen this and been like, well, what are you doing? You're doing this to somebody who didn't do anything wrong. Like, why do you think that there's no pushback from other people within the hierarchy?
I think that sometimes it's kind of a couple things. You know, we say this as people who are very plugged into this issue. You know, we're a very particular demographic that, you know, reads this, a lot of this news and stuff like that. And we say, you know, oh, well, you know, how could the Pope allow this or something like that? Well, you know, there's a lot of assumptions that go into that. I mean, you know, the Pope is responsible for 1 billion Catholics, you know, and so if he hears about a priest being, you know, punished or something like that, he may very well, you know, just say, oh, you know, okay, the bishop's just doing what the bishop's doing, and not know about the context of the situation. You, if he even hears about it at all, I highly doubt that Pope Francis has. Um, you know, and I think other people in the hierarchy, you know, are they maybe hearing it? Maybe, maybe not. Some again are very weak and just don't care. Some may just not hear about it, and others, you know, do hear about it and still suffer for the sake of righteousness. But all this is to say is that again, um, these periods of time happen in the life of the church and are not uncommon, where even the highest authorities, even sometimes the Pope, you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
punishes a good or legitimate person for the wrong reason, right? Such as Saint Padre Pio. But um, the the Lord is good and merciful, and his justice will be seen through. It's been seen through a million times over, and it will be seen through again. And I think that all these, you know, kind of weak bishops, their reign is sort of coming to a close because their dioceses are emptying. People aren't feeling the faith. People are more on fire and supporting the bishops that are on fire for the faith and stuff like that. And so they're kind of I don't want to be disrespectful and say die off, but they're kind of fading away. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
People respond much better to a Cardinal Burke or a Cardinal Mueller or Cardinal Sarah or Bishop Golka or Bishop Aquila than a, you know, weak bishop that isn't upholding the gospel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do think that in our lifetimes we'll see like a very strong resurgence of more traditional and like abrasive clergymen that
I
are
think so too.
more, yeah, you know. So we'll see, but yeah,
It's inevitable, dude. And I mean, it's already going down. You know
yeah,
what I
like
mean?
I think we talked about like all the Zoomers that are becoming priests now that are like, you know, epic
Oh
or
yeah,
whatever. Like they're giving homilies saying like no cap, for real, Jesus died for you, bro, or whatever in their sermons or whatever, and they're gonna be the ones that are like being strict about gays and all this nonsense or whatever and calling it out. And I really do feel like that in the next 20, 30 years, there's going to be a large resurgence in the church and just naturally with all the crazy stuff that people are just going to be naturally gravitating towards more traditionalism anyway, you know? So I'm not,
absolutely.
yeah. Okay. So this was, I don't know where I saw this question. I don't know if it might've been Twitter, or if it was in my chat or something like that, but, it made me like want to ask you this question. So God created Adam and Eve, but he created them in a way more perfect state without original sin, and they were supposed to live forever in the Garden of Eden or whatever. And then obviously we know what happened. Eve got her and Adam to eat the apple. They brought original sin, blah, blah. But do you think that they were always destined to fall into sin? Like God created them. God is omnipotent, omnipresent. He knows everything that's going to happen. So were they always meant to fall? Like if they didn't eat the apple, would have they fell another way? Was humanity always destined to be in a state of sin as it is? Or was it meant to be in perfection, and because of their free will, they chose to fall, and we don't know if it was inevitable, but it happened, so this is the outcome? Or how do you feel about that? Or is there like a legit theological theory on it?
So I would love to see in the future if we can come back to this, because I feel like there's a ton of saints writings on it and stuff like that. I'm sure St. Thomas Aquinas probably covered this issue. But what we do know is that God, one of the beautiful gifts actually that God gave us was free will, right? So the ability to choose good or to choose evil freely. And because of that, God made us to be perfect, but because we have free will, he gave us this ability to choose him or to choose sin, right? And unfortunately, because we were tempted and we chose evil, that's why the fall happened. It's not that God was setting us up for failure, or that God, said like, oh, I'm gonna just make these people fall and put them in the situation that they can't kind of get out of, right? It's that rather he loved us so much that he wanted to give us the free will to freely choose him, right? There's an emphasis there. He made us perfect to freely choose to love him, because what kind of love and what kind of loving creator would make like an automaton that of course would just love him automatically? You know what I mean? He made us to love him, but like a father does to his children, God didn't want us to just simply force us to love him. He wanted to invite us into that love, right? And we freely, unfortunately, rejected that. And I think what's worthy of reflection here is what Saint John Paul II writes in Dominum et Vivificantum, in which he says, sorry,
Vivificantum.
Vivificantum. He says, according to the book of Genesis, the tree of knowledge of good and evil was to express and constantly remind man of the limit impassable for a created being. God's prohibition is to be understood in this sense. The Creator forbids man and woman to eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The words of this enticement, that is to say, temptation, as formulated in the sacred text, are an inducement to transgress this prohibition, that is to say, to go beyond that limit. When you eat of it, your eyes will be open, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Disobedience, precisely going beyond that limit, which remains impassable to the will and the freedom of man as a created being. For God, the Creator, is the one definitive source of the moral order in the world created by him. Man cannot decide by himself what is good and what is evil, cannot know good and evil like God. So really, it was an understanding that the fall of to kind of explain St. John Paul II's words. Adam and Eve were perfectly rational in understanding God's commandment not to eat from the tree of knowledge, but the original temptation was to become like God, right? And we see that play out in human history where, human beings try to be like God and they try to replace God. And so we replace God with our stupid philosophies and with our science and our technology and stuff like that. And we try to make ourselves like him. And what's the result? We crash and burn, and the result is disastrous, right? And so really it can be thought of as God wanted to invite us into this love, and we willingly rejected him. And it's similar to kind of the discussions we've had on free will before of watching the football game footage as it played out, right? Like about it, you're watching the footage play out, but it's not that you puppeted everyone and made them do this or do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's just it just boils down once again to like the not paradoxal, but the way that God's infinite knowledge or infinity, his attribute of infinityness overall, is just incomprehensible to our finite minds.
It
right?
is.
So if he gave us free will and he is perfectly good, we know that he would not have made us for the purpose of living with sin if that wasn't what his original intentions were, right? So it's just, but then you also have the paradox of, well, if he's omnipotent and omnipresent and is all-knowing and knows everything that is, was, and will be, then he already knew that they were going to fall. So by creating them, he was, but it just, what does Christ say? That his ways are not of this world, right? So we are thinking about it in a strictly human sense of like a series of operations that we could fathom in our head, but it just doesn't work that way. So that's basically where, like, I guess, like the mystery of faith would come in, right?
Well, and Boethius writes a lot about this in The Problem of Evil, and how if God is all merciful and all loving, how does evil seemingly triumph in this world? And I'm certainly not a philosopher, so I'm not quite mentally attuned yet to grasp the full breadth of Blessed Boethius's words. But Boethius says something along the lines of God is so kind of his relation to history and how events play out is so different from what we could comprehend that it's kind of unfair to be thinking in our sense of how he would comprehend time and space and kind of all that. You know what I mean? It's kind of like saying like, well, God is thinking like I am, or seeing history like I am, or like if I could see history, he's seeing it like how I am. But that's not how that's not how God's will operates. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. All right. Okay. So the next topic before the main topic is the importance of the Eucharist, why it's needed, how it forgives venial sins, and the historicity of it, and why it wasn't just a metaphor. So now, some Protestants, like I guess. I don't know much about Anglicans. I'm sure you could fill me in on that, but I know like some other groups will have just like grape juice and like crackers or something, and like they just do it just, oh, it's just a metaphor, it's not really his actual blood and flesh or whatever. And even a lot of Catholics, unfortunately, or I guess heretics or poorly catechized Catholics, whatever you want to call them, they don't really believe in the true presence of Christ. And obviously, if they did, they would receive the Eucharist with a lot more reverence than is most commonly seen. So like, I don't know, do you want to like give like the importance of why the Eucharist is so fundamental in our faith, and why people need to take it more seriously? And also like the book, it's actually a lot of the church fathers in The Fathers Know Best by Jimmy Akin has a lot of quotes from church fathers about like the Eucharist goes back to before the Bible was even compiled. It's like they believe that it was the true presence of the blood and flesh of Jesus Christ in the Holy Eucharist, right? So it is a very traditional thing that predates Scripture, right? So I don't know. Do you want to explain maybe the importance and history of the Eucharist?
Absolutely. So, why is the Eucharist important? In kind of a broad sense, or in the most meaningful sense, it is Christ's sacrifice on the cross. It is his sacrifice, right? And when Christ poured out his, you know, spilled his blood for many, you know, and shed his body and blood for us all, it was in such a way that he wanted to unite us with him, because the whole issue of what the fall had caused was a rupture between us and God, right? You couldn't go to paradise before Jesus came along, right? You were in really the upper part of hell. And so what Christ bridged, or the gap that Christ bridged, was this monumental chasm that had been created between man and God. And so God became like man to bridge that gap again, and came down in our flesh. But coming down in our flesh, he suffered, and his flesh was crucified for our sake. And so by partaking of our flesh, we're partaking of the sacrifice that he shed on the cross to redeem us and to unite us with him. And so the Eucharist isn't merely just important, it is the only thing that gives us life. If we don't have the Eucharist, we're dead. We're living zombies. We walk around the world aimless with no life in us. The Eucharist is the only food that we need and the only life that we need. And if we don't have the Eucharist, we don't have anything. And so this sacrifice that Christ shed for us is the only means of grace that we can, that we can truly attain to be in heaven with him forever and ever, and in paradise with him. It gives us the grace to not only resist sin and to combat sin, but it also gives us the grace to become like God and become closer in union with him, right? Become more perfect. And if we don't have his flesh in us, as he says in the Gospels, we have no life in us. If we don't consume his flesh and drink his blood, we have no life in us. And we know that this is not a metaphor from exactly the Gospel of John, in which Christ is talking about his flesh and his blood. And he's talking about, what I'm giving up, like, you must eat of my flesh and drink of my blood. And the Pharisees exclaim, they're like, this man wants us to eat flesh and drink blood. But what does Jesus respond with? He doesn't contradict himself. He doesn't say, guys, sorry to, I didn't clarify. No, it's just a symbol or something like that. No, he doubles down.
Yeah. And just to add on to that real quick, because I was going to say the same thing, is like he constantly spoke in parables, but then he would explain the parables. If he used metaphors, he would generally make it clear that he was using a metaphor, or whatever, clarify to the apostles and things of that nature. Like when he talked about being the vine and everybody being the leaves and stuff like that. Like obviously he wasn't saying we are literally leaves and vines or whatever, right? Like he used certain languages. But when he talked specifically about the Eucharist, and he said, "This is my blood, this is my flesh," and they asked him to explain it or whatever, he didn't, right? People left him because they called him a cannibal and said all this stuff. He didn't say, "Oh, like you said, this is just a metaphor, it's just a saying, it's just a representation or whatever." He never said any of that stuff, right? So it's weird that Protestants, who are apparently sola scriptura, don't believe that. Like, because it's literally couldn't be any more explicit in scripture.
It couldn't be. And I mean, you have to do such a hack job of scripture to try and make it as such. I mean, how about the fact that the disciples say to him, "This is a hard teaching," right? This is a hard teaching. This is difficult. This is a difficult teaching.
Mm-hmm. He says, he says something like, "Oh, are you going to leave me?" And they say, "Where would we go?" Right? Something like that.
Peter says to him, "Lord, to whom else shall we go?"
Mm-hmm.
Right? "Lord, to whom can we go? You have the words of eternal life. We have come to believe and know that you are the Holy One of God." And Jesus answered them, "Did I not choose you, the 12? Yet one of you is a devil." And he's calling out Judas there. But the fact that the Lord is confronted even by his own disciples, and he doesn't back down. And many disciples leave him, and he doesn't say, "Guys, wait, come back. It was just an analogy. It was just a symbol," or something like that, shows exactly the real presence of the Eucharist. Right? Mm-hmm. That it wasn't merely just, bread and grape juice, that it is actually his body and his blood. And as he says, if you do not consume it, you don't have any life in you, is the only thing that we should care about receiving. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Based. Yeah. So receive the Eucharist. Only in a state of grace, though. If you're in a state of mortal sin, go to confession immediately. If you have venial sins, the Eucharist will forgive you of venial sins, right?
It does, because it's so powerful that those venial sins are just wiped away by Christ's sacrifice. Actually, both the Eucharist and making the sign of the cross with holy water also forgives venial sins.
I think this might have been a question. I don't know who this question was from, but I don't know if you want to answer it. But it says, why Jesus says in Mark 13:32 that he doesn't know when the end times are, only the Father. If Christ is omnipotent and knows everything, why wouldn't he know that?
Let's go to the catechism itself.
Let's do it.
By its union to the divine with so it's talking about the proper interpretation of the Lord's words here. So catechism says, by its union to the divine wisdom in the person of the Word incarnate, Christ enjoyed in his human knowledge the fullness of understanding of the eternal plans he had come to reveal. What he admitted to not knowing in this area, he elsewhere declared himself not sent to reveal. So this not knowing meant that it's not that Christ truly did not know, but it's that in his mission on earth, he was not there to reveal the day or the hour, if that makes sense, mm-hmm. Right? So what the Lord is saying here is not our sweet Christ is not saying, "Oh, I don't physically know." He says that this is not my task to reveal this to you at this time. It's a mystery.
Oh, okay. Right?
But he does actually know. It just wasn't a part of his earthly ministry.
Okay. This actually made me we were asking this, I think, the other day when I was doing a video game stream, that if Christ, did he always know he was God? I know he has the two natures, right? Human and divine. But did he know he was God, like in his early years? Because the first time that we hear an idea that he might know that he's God is when he runs away from St. Joseph and St. Mary to the temple, and they look for him for, I think, 3 days, and they come, and he's like, "Didn't you know that I needed to be in my Father's house?" Right? So, and I think he was like 13 at that time, right? But I think from the earlier years or whatever, I don't think there is anything about that. So do we know if he always knew he was God, or if there was a time where his divine nature told his human nature, or...
He always knew he was God.
Oh, he did? Okay.
In fact, actually, what's very distinct in Byzantine iconography is depicting Christ as sort of a almost like adult looking baby, or like a baby that looks like more like an adult. And you know, some people like even my sister used to grow up, we would see some Renaissance paintings, and Jesus would look quite old as a baby, and she was like, why does Jesus look old? Well, that is an exterior sign of his of really the maturity and wisdom that he carried with him even as he was born, right? So it's not that when he was a baby he physically looked old, but it's actually symbology to show that even in his youth he knew and possessed all wisdom and all truth and all knowledge.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. All right, so main topic, which is probably going to be shorter than everything else, as always. It kind of molds in with like materialism and self-denial, or asceticism, which means self-denial, and that's a tenet of one of the core tenets of the Catholic faith, and that's like denying the physical world, temporal pleasures for spiritual gifts or whatever, embracing your suffering, stuff like that. But I wanted to kind of talk about how materialism manifests itself in both like right wing and left wing ideologies, right? So you have like these left wing people who don't believe in God, so they basically need to try to fill that hole with physical, temporal things, carnal pleasures, whether it's porn or activism or sex, whatever it is. And then on the other side, you could look at like right-wing people who like are obsessed with like working out and vanity, or they become like neo-pagans who don't really believe in these gods, but they're more of like these archetypes of like strength or qualities that they wish that they had and stuff. And they basically obsess over things that have been created instead of the creator, and how that is just like such a evil way to live. Whether like even if like you have like some right-wing pagan bodybuilder guy or whatever, and like he agrees with 85% of like our temporal political beliefs or whatever, he's still not an ally, because obviously he doesn't have Jesus Christ, and he's only cares about these things from an arbitrary, subjective, material perspective of how it could benefit him or his nation or whatever temporally, right? Like the people that are like racial idolaters or obsessed with like political philosophies and stuff like that, and like different ideologies, and dissecting and intellectualizing everything like that. And it feels like they do this because for the purpose that they don't have God. And I feel like that is what makes modern right and left wing non-religious people, right? Is that like it doesn't really matter where your politics are if you don't have Christ, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. You know, the left, I don't know how much there really is to say about it, because it's just satanic. It's just non serviam, you know, I will not serve, and it's just a rejection of God. I mean, for the left, it's like they are hell bent on overthrowing the Christian order. They were conceptualized in that and born into that. And any like left wing, I actually was meaning to write an article on this, but you know, any liberal Catholic you see in history had to ultimately choose between either their liberalism or their Catholicism. So you had guys like Blessed Frederick Ozanam, who had to choose between ultimately following down the path of like other Catholic liberals and basically like rejecting the church's authority, or being readily obedient to the church and choosing to be Catholic. And he chose to be Catholic, and the fruits of his ministry bore forth that's why he's a blessed in the church, right? But then you have someone like Count Montalbert, who though he did some good things with like French schooling for Catholics and stuff like that, the guy was a liberal. He didn't care about church authority. He when the Syllabus of Errors came out, he said that he wanted to take a whip of cords and slash all the Jesuits that helped inspire it. I mean, what kind of saintly man talks about that to his superiors? No saintly man, right? And so the left is born in satanic inversion. And this is why Father Felix Sardai Sardani, who needs to be canonized, we need to make him a saint. He's a good man. But this is why he says the liberal can never be Catholic and the Catholic can never be liberal, because one has to give out. And I think that everywhere in history where we see that, one or the other wound up giving out. You either had the Catholic liberal who became way more Catholic towards the end of their life and said, to hell with liberalism, or they ultimately sacrificed their Catholicism on the altar of liberalism and became like an atheist or a pantheist altogether, right? And so that left-wing ideology is so satanic and evil that it is inherent about a rejection of God. Right-wing ideology is very interesting because I'm now kind of the opinion where I think that there's many people who try to pretend to be our allies on the right that are not actually our allies and don't actually, I think, represent my interests or anything like that. And, there's kind of the obvious examples of like maybe the Wignats or the Pagans or like the National Justice Party or something like that. But there's even right-wingers who claim to be Christian, claim to want to follow Christ, but when they're given the truth of Christ, they're like, that's not based. That's not awesome. That's cringe or something like that. Like they won't enter the church because the church doesn't say, I can go commit random acts of terrorism and using Christ's name in vain or something like that, right? Because that's clearly a sin against the gospel. But in these men's exegesis, in these men's false exegesis and almost right-wing Pelagianism, right, where they puff up themselves and say, well, I'm so awesome, I'm so Chad or whatever, they refuse to assent to the one true faith because it means exactly that, obedience and humility. And that's something that they don't have, right? You see this a lot with Protestants and kind of right-wing Protestants. See this a ton with Eastern Orthodox, a ton, no humility whatsoever. And I'm not so much talking about the ones born into it, but the apostates such as Jay Dyer or any of the other guys who talk about the faith in such a way that it's like, well, that's essences and energies and that's not based and that's cringe or whatever. But it's like, but is it true? That's the question we should be asking.
And I think that's also what it is too. Maybe that like you said, like the converts to orthodoxy are like almost always in my experience the most like abrasive, uncharitable like douchebags, right? And like I was like that when I first converted too for Catholicism, so I understand that. But I thankfully, with your help and help of others, grew out of that like being overly hostile type thing. But I feel like ortho bros like that once they do that, they like Jay Dyer has been doing it for like 5 years now or more, right? Like he doesn't like grow out of that, like he has to like dunk on everybody and he has to like always like be on top, and like then when he can, he just throws insults at them and stuff. Real quick, Krongel sent a super chat. Thank you very much. He says, "Hey guys, great show so far. Thank you very much. God bless." Krongel, Krongel, Krongel or Krongel? All right.
No, it's Krongel.
Oh, it is Krongel. All right.
Okay. And it's not me saying all this to talk, have the 500th conversation about like a mad trad or ortho bro or something like that. But this is a very real phenomenon we see. Like it is definitive of kind of online, right-wing Christian spheres where a ton of these people don't care about truth. They don't care about having a conversation about truth or what is true. They just simply care about a political slogan or message, and then they fill in the gaps after and try to make a truth that's very poorly conceived. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Somebody says Dyer claims to be based, but won't talk about Jewish power. I'll actually slightly defend him on this because one, he works for InfoWars, which they're Zionists, obviously. And two, as far as I know, I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think he's really involved in politics. I'm pretty sure he's just more into like theology and like debating and stuff like that. So if he's a content creator who doesn't want to lose his channel, I'm just retarded. Like I just talk about whatever I want. If I get banned, I get banned. But like I said, and I'm kind of also political. I support America First, obviously. But like Jay Dyer is basically strictly theological stuff, so I wouldn't really expect him to like go around and start talking about Jewish power. So that's one thing I will like. I don't think that's a appropriate critique. I don't know if you agree with that.
No, I would agree with that, and I also don't think that that's really fair to say, oh, someone's talking about this topic or not talking about that topic. It's like everyone's got their own thing or their own shtick. That's not necessarily a fair criticism.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a fair criticism to people who I love, like Trent Horn, who go out of their way, like we talked about last time, that go out of their way to be political, but then they like arbitrarily choose not to go past a certain line, either because they don't want to ruin financial stability, or they don't want to get banned or whatever. But it's like, if you are purposely talking about politics, then and you claim you want to spread the truth, then you should be willing to risk that stuff in order to spread the truth. I don't know. All right. Oh, but anyway,
Absolutely.
this actually like ties in with the thing of asceticism, because like we were saying, like with like Nietzsche, I think that's how you pronounce it or whatever, and all these, and Evola and stuff like that. Like when I was first coming into like the right wing scene, that's like everybody was shilling these types of people, right? And Evola, by the way, like I guess out of context, yeah, like there's some quotes that might be based or whatever. I tried reading, I think it was Ride the Tiger or whatever. Bro, the guy is a horrible writer. I am not to be prideful or whatever. I am a way better writer than him. Okay, he writes in like, I don't know, like tangents, like it's a podcast basically. It's like he just like rambles on in run-on sentences that go on for like 3 pages or whatever. Horrible, like just not. It's like a chore to read Evola. So I don't know how he became like so popular in right wing circles. But Nietzsche, I could see, has some good stuff. I know that Thus Spoke Zarathustra or whatever. I have that book actually. Is one of Nick Fuentes' favorite book or whatever. But anyway, all these like cringe right wing tier philosophers or whatever that don't believe in Christ, that aren't Catholic, they just have to over intellectualize and make up these philosophies, and like it's basically like a coping mechanism because they don't know how to like justify their beliefs without God, right?
They don't. Well, and the thing about it is, they try to find this morality outside of Christianity, and suddenly feel the weight of the world crushing on them. Like their books will be forgotten. I mean, the ancient version of someone like, Evola, who only recently has been revived because of kind of the right-wing paganism revival, is like Julian the Apostate, right? Mm-hmm. Writing his horrendous tome that may be forgotten from the face of the earth, against the Galileans, where, he's just, I think he says, I haven't read it, but I think probably his same arguments are Christians are weak, Christians led to the downfall of the empire, Christians are soft, and they, consume flesh and stuff like that, which it's like, yeah, we do. What about it?
And then St. Augustine dunked on them in City of God, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and he wasn't answering, he was answering a different pagan, but actually, I think St. Cyril of Jerusalem is the one who dunked on Julian the Apostate. But all this is to say is that, all these criticisms follow the same way. Oh, you're weak. And then, suddenly we find out the pagan is like actually shilling for homosexuality. He's like, guys, hear me out, okay?
Yeah, homosexuality is actually the last implicit sign of white identity, okay?
Listen, Greco-Roman wrestling with other men really builds the vril, okay? If we do that, we're gonna save the white race, guys.
Yeah, we were making fun of what's his name, Bronze Age pervert. I don't know if you saw that whole thing where like a audio leaked of him, and he sounds like Bernie Sanders or whatever. Yeah. So we were like, white people don't understand that they need to have sex with twinks if they want to save the white race. It was just like me and Papal, we're just going back and forth. That shit was amazing. But that's funny. What were we talking? Oh, okay. So yeah. And the Prosperity Bible too. That's like, so Joel Osteen and these other guys or whatever that basically are Christian grifters, these televangelists and stuff like that basically manipulate the gospel and spread it and spread this message of like, if you pray and if you're a good Christian, then God's gonna get you that new Lamborghini that you want. If you just get on your knees and you say, Lord Jesus, I need this promotion, you're gonna get that promotion, stuff like that. And it's like you're promoting this, like the opposite of what the gospel teaches, which is asceticism, self-denial, denying yourself from the physical world, right? And you're doing the opposite by saying that God's going to give you all this material stuff. That's not what God says. God says to embrace your suffering and be grateful for your suffering, and the more that you suffer, the more closer you become to Christ, right? And so these people are just basically like evil, right? Because that is what Christianity is about. That's the main tenet, is like not caring about the pleasures of the world, not searching for those carnal, physical, or mental, or anything like that. It's to like, that's why all you have like Saint Assisi and all these people that completely just got rid of all of their physical belongings and went and became like monks and just like spent their life dedicated to God. That's why priests, they embrace poverty. That's why poverty is a like fundamental of Catholicism too, right? And I think that like a lot of people don't see that, and they see like people were there was like a argument in my chat or whatever, and somebody was saying like, oh well, this guy is more successful than you or whatever, and he was talking about some like atheist YouTuber or whatever, like Dan Bilzerian, just hypothetically for say or whatever. I don't consider somebody like Dan Bilzerian like successful or whatever. He's like a degenerate fornicator who he's yeah, okay, whatever, I guess you could say from a physical aspect he looks like he has like a fun life because he's with supermodels all the time and doing drugs or whatever, but that's a degenerate. That's somebody who's living like an evil life. That is not like, I don't know who that appeals to, college kids I guess maybe, but that's not like how I view what a man is supposed to do, you know? So like Catholicism is the opposite of all of that. It's the opposite of like looking at those people as like their heroes or their role models to look up to. It's about looking at people who like sacrifice everything to spread the truth about Jesus Christ and who don't care about material wealth or whatever. It's not saying that it's wrong to have that stuff, but that always comes after the importance of God.
It absolutely does. And the thing about it too is that, you know, really the possessions and things that we own actually enslave us. They become our God. We serve them. We spend so much time focusing on how much wealth that we amass. We focus so much time on our appearance. We focus so much on all these things that do not matter and do not wind up revealing to us the true way or the true path, right? Mm-hmm. And it's because we fill our heads with noise that we never listen to the emptiness that really resides in there because we've blocked out God, right? This is why people like noise nowadays, because they're empty. People listen to music on Spotify on their earbuds because they don't want to think about the interior void in their heart that God alone can fill. People spend hours watching TV and Netflix because they don't want to think of their own mortality or how their sins have wounded their creator or in what ways God has tried to love them and they've pushed away. We spend endless amounts of hours and days trying to care about things that don't matter ultimately and don't result in any happier life, that don't result in anything flourishing. I mean, you mentioned Saint Francis of Assisi. His whole spiritual life was founded on the idea of exactly our Lord's words about, you shouldn't need to worry about, what you're going to wear tomorrow or how you look or anything like that, or where you find your next meal, for your Father provides you with everything you need. Mm-hmm. But we always ask more and more and more. And the reason we ask more is because the hunger that we feel is a hunger for God, but it's misdirected due to the effects of sin. And we think we can find it somewhere else and we can't. It's like we're addicted to the world and not knowing that it's the world that gives us that void that we need to fill in the first place. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
So true. Krongle, I got a second super chat from you, but it's the same thing. So I think you might have sent that in twice. If you want to, I don't know if you sent more money than you were supposed to, you might want to look at that. But yes. So even when I was like secular or like a degenerate atheist or whatever, like when I was saying like after college and I went through like those 2 years of really bad depression, like where I wanted to kill myself and stuff like that, like people would be like, oh, don't you want to like be able to get a good job and make money and blah, 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 or whatever. And I was like, I don't want like anything physical. Like, I just want to be happy, like I just want like that content stuff. Like people like were always saying like, oh, well, once you get a job and once you do this or whatever. And at the time, all I wanted to do was obviously go back to college or whatever. But like the thing wasn't anything physical. It wasn't anything like material that I like was like yearning for. It was the feeling of being content and happiness. And obviously like I found that eventually through Jesus Christ or whatever. But then like I think of like all of these rich people who are killing themselves and suffer with depression and anxiety and all that stuff or whatever, like the Selena Gomez thing I was talking about, even though I think she's a horrible person. I think that she's like over like a horrible representation of depression or whatever, but like these famous, rich and famous people who actually suffer with depression, even though they have millions of dollars and they have people serving on them hand and foot, ultimately what it comes down to is that they're not, they don't have any real fulfillments, no matter how much money and physical goods they have, because they don't have a real relationship with God, you know? And I think that is like, that is the foundation of all despair and all depression, is not having full trust and faith in God.
It is. I mean, I've struggled with scrupulosity for not trusting enough in God, you know, and feeling horrid depression because of that. I mean, the kind that makes it hard to get out of bed in the morning, right? You know, so many people that I know, you know, will be annoyed when God's name comes up, but then they'll go back to their empty room. They'll light up their bong, or they'll turn on, you know, inappropriate videos, or they'll watch TV, or they'll play video games, and they'll drown themselves out with hours and hours and hours of this content and these meaningless things. And ultimately it's to say that, as you said, Spec, so when you were depressed and you wanted to take your own life, which is an unfathomably sad thought, it was because everything that people offered you was things of the world. It was things that they thought would not make you whole, but would make you forget, you know, and not make you whole, but make you forget about the pain that you felt. But God doesn't want us to forget about the pain. He wants to heal us of it. And I think that's something that, it's something certainly that I don't understand yet, but you know, I want to. And I think that all of us need to understand that, because it's the only place that we can ever find true happiness. You know, happiness isn't found in trying to amass copious amounts of wealth and trying to talk to every girl and doing all these things, because you know, think about the moment you achieve that and you have all those things and you have everything you could ever want materially. Would you really feel happy? A lot of people would say no, man, because there's no more mountains to climb, there's no more goals. And I said, exactly, because you've hit a wall. You hit a point where there is no more, because there's nothing to it. I mean, that's the reason why it's called, you know, death. That's why sin is death, because there's a wall that's hit. There's an end to it. There's a point where these things aren't fun anymore, and our bodies decay and we die and we lose our wealth, or it gains rust or is bitten by moth. And suddenly it's like we realize that all we are at that point is broken and alone, and we don't have anything else. But, you know, we talked about this one time, you know, the happiest old people you see who are at the twilight of death are the people who have only God and very little else. And the people that are the most sad are the people who surrounded their entire lives with wealth and never made any time for God. And so let us be those people who want only God, and everything else can bite the dust and flow away in the wind like wheat from the chaff.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people mistake comfortability and physical pleasure with happiness. But that feeling of joy from those things are dependent on those things. You take those things away, then you're not happy anymore, right? Like, I am at a point, I hope to be at a point, I would right now, as I have the stuff that I have, I say I'm at this point, but I'm at this point where if I lost like my house or my car or whatever, like, I know that I would still have faith in God. That wouldn't change. You know, I would still be happy because I have God, right? I mean, it would suck to lose I like having nice things, don't get me wrong, but my happiness isn't dependent on anything physical that I get. And I feel like if your happiness and your contentness is only based on things that you have, then that's not real. That's like a synthetic feeling, right? Like, we love God because he's God, because he created us and he is deserving of all the love in the world. And because we know that he is infinitely good and loves us, that is like the most natural happiness, right? And you really don't have that unconditional love with anything else, right? Like, yeah, you love your children unconditionally, whatever, but it's on the condition that they're your children, right? You love your wife, right? But if your wife cheats on you, you're probably not going to love her anymore. You're probably going to want to separate from her, stuff like that, or whatever. Your friends, you love them, but it's on the condition that, you know, they're and I'm not talking theological love where you will the best. Obviously, I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about, like that, like unconditional, like love. I want them in my life. I want to be with them, blah blah, all that stuff. So I feel like the only true form of unconditional love is through Jesus Christ, and that the only true form of happiness is the same way, and that if you can't be happy without physical stuff, then you need to really like reflect on like your relationship with God.
Absolutely. I mean, it, everything else can pass away, but only God remains the same. It's like how wise men will always say everything else changes, but God doesn't, right? And so God's the only consistent in our lives. But what's funny is because he's the only consistent thing, we oftentimes forget him the most. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, he's always there, right?
Yep.
But these other things, oh, I need to put more time and energy into pursuing those. Yet those other things, as you said, Spexo, aren't ever going to make us happy, no matter how much we try and clamor after them or we spin it that way. And I think that in our age, it's like we have by all means everything we could ever want, and yet
The most
we're
depressed. Yeah.
we're miserable,
Yeah.
miserable, dude. I mean, I can airdrop a box of cookies to my place right now and eat them.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I'll even give. I'll be raw here for a moment. I spent. This will be kind of embarrassing, but I don't mind saying this. I spent $150 on cookies this quarter of school.
Base cookie man. Cookie
Base
sap.
cookie.
Cookie
But
sap.
I did it cookie sap. I did it because
You like cookies. You really like cookies.
I really like it. Dude, these cookies are so good. But like, I did it because like when I was talking with my mom about it, I did it because like oftentimes in those moments I was sad and I felt this like emptiness and this void. And rather than like turning to God, I was like, no, God won't give me instant gratification. I need cookies to feel good. But then I would like eat these cookies. I'd eat like a 6-pack of them or something, man, like a lot. And I'd be like at the end of it. And then I'd say to myself, I'm like, that's it. Like, I just finished that. And like, I want more, but I know if I eat more, I'm just going to sit there and be sad. And I was like always depressed after. Like, there was never a time where like I ate them and I was like,
I'm glad I did
feel
that.
really good that I ate all those 6 cookies.
It's me with Taco Bell.
Yeah. It was always like, I feel sad after, but the only times I've ever felt like happy after is when I've gone to confession, when I've prayed. Like I walked and I like prayed the rosary for like an hour yesterday, and it was like the most meaningful part of my entire week.
Mm-hmm.
Like I felt like I felt like I didn't want anything else after doing it. You know what I mean? I didn't feel this void in me, but those other things, like I did feel a void in me. And like, I thought they were going to fulfill me and make me feel like homeostasis, but they didn't,
Yeah. The only times that I've ever cried tears of joy where it was when I found out my wife was pregnant for the first time and the first time I attended Christmas Mass, right? And both of those things are like spiritual like things, you know what I'm saying? Like, so like, I feel like that is what true joy is. True joy is stuff that like is not physical things, you know what I'm saying? It's like experiences. It's things that like God gives you, and I don't know where I was going with that, but like I feel like
that's a great thing to bring up.
Yeah, like that, like I feel like the overwhelming majority of these celebrities are not like truly happy, right? Like think about their lives and stuff. It's like they are basically controlled by like puppets, Jewish puppets mostly, right? Where they have to like basically, whether they're an athlete or like a singer or whatever, they have to go on these tours, they have to do these press releases, they have to make sure they portray a certain image that has been like strategically like what's that word where like they test it on audiences and stuff like that, like to see like, oh, if this is the most attractive thing for them to do or whatever, right? So it's like they're not real like people, and they don't get to live like real lives. Like, yeah, they have like all these luxuries and all this stuff or whatever, but a lot of them are just like fake manufactured people. And the vast majority of them don't believe in God, obviously, because they're all mostly satanic pedophiles that have to do disgusting things to get to that level, you know? So I would much rather be where I am now, or even poorer than I am now, and have God than be a controlled celebrity working for Satanists.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, like there's a real feeling of comfort in thinking about, like, fantasizing about like fleeing up into like the hills with like a Bible, your backpack, and like a water bottle, and like literally that's just the rest of your life, you know?
Facts.
Like there's such a joy to that, because it's like you would want nothing else, you know? I mean, you know, the moss on the ground is your pillow. You know, the soft dirt is your blanket. You know,
I legit think I would have done that if I didn't have a wife and kids when I converted. Like, if I converted like right after college or whatever, and because of how much of an obsessive autistic person I am or whatever, I know that I would, because that's what I do. I find, like, I don't know if I ever talked about this, but like I get obsessed with something like every 2 weeks or whatever, right? And like I hyper focus on it, right? I like learn everything I can about it. I like spend a massive amount of money on it or whatever, right? And then like after a couple of weeks, I'm just like, whatever. Catholicism's the only thing that I ever got obsessed with that like I actually consistently stayed obsessed with or whatever. But like 2 or 3 years ago or whatever, when Jake Paul or whatever was started collecting Pokemon cards, right? Bro, I spent $3,000 on Pokemon cards or whatever, right? Ordered them and put them in binders and stuff like that. I put them away and like just never thought about it again. Like, it was just ridiculous or whatever. So like I think that if I would have converted when I was like just getting out of college, or before I was in a relationship or anything like that, I would have became a monk or something like that, and just like went into the woods and joined like a monastery or whatever, and just never talked to any other human for the rest of my life.
absolutely.
Which sounds awesome, honestly. like I love my family, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying like that lifestyle, I like envy that a little bit. Like, they don't, what worries do they have? Like, imagine that you don't have to do like anything. You are in a community with other people, and your entire existence is to serve God. You wake up, you pray, you do chores around the house or whatever, you read scripture, you eat with the other people who are living the same exact lifestyle as you, and whatever, you guys play sports together and have some like fun activities on the side or whatever, but mainly all you're doing is like living for God. That's awesome. You don't have to worry about politics, you don't have to worry about anything else going on in the world and who's talking bad about who, and drama and family issues and all that stuff. Like, you're literally, all of your attention is focused on God. That's like something I truly envy.
I mean, it's such a beautiful vocation to pursue. You know what I mean? But it has with it such a great grace of freedom, you know, to just be able to strip away the passions in the world and say I only care about God, and I only fade away into that. But you know, to remind you the beauty of your vocation, man, like you, I mean, your little girls one day could become a mother or a nun and go on to do such great things with that, and create other little monks and other little nuns and other little family members that will create more monks and nuns. And like, you know, the thing about being a married man is, you know, you're modeling Jesus's love that he has for the church, right? Like, you're modeling our Lord, and the love that you have for your wife is the love that Jesus has for his church, right? And so, even though it may feel like, you know, well, it's not base trad, I'm going up in the woods with only a Bible and a backpack, you know, you're fulfilling the role that makes those very things possible in the first place. And so don't think that like you're somehow giving up some like more awesome life. Like, if anything, you're giving a life that is so integral to the entire divine plan, and models, I mean, like I said, our own Lord's love for his church. You know what I mean?
So true. Yeah. No, yeah, it's true. Everybody has their own vocations, but hypothetically, I would, though, my fantasy though is to win the lottery, which I would have to play the lottery to win, and I don't do that. So I'm already on a bad starting point. But if I played the lottery, I would like to win the lottery and win like a couple $1 billion. I'll be cool with. And then start a Catholic like Mennonite society, like a community of like a couple hundred Catholics that like don't use electricity, and just a full like on the outskirts of like, I don't know, somewhere in like the Southwest or something like that, away from like other society, and just have like a giant church in the middle or whatever, and everybody else just lives off the land. That's my fantasy.
That sounds pretty sweet.
Let's do it.
Hey, I mean, if we win the lottery, I mean, if I make some money with my college degree, I'll build that for us, man.
Let's go.
We'll go to South Dakota. It'll be ready.
Yeah. Let's do it. All right. I guess that pretty much does it. You want to take some calls?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I got some time.
All right.
Are you okay if I just get some water real quick? It's pretty hot.
No, you're not allowed to get water. Yes, of course. All right. So I'm going to start a voice chat on t.me/spexo chat, I think. Let me just put the yeah. So it's up here. I don't know if you guys can see it. If you want to call in and ask Pinesap and I questions, you can join the chat. Meatball Groiper's already in here. I'll wait for Pinesap to get back. Trump to make a, let's see what he's saying.
I'm going to be making a very big announcement on Tuesday, November 15th at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida.
Benny Johnson lied. Not surprising.
Trump says that he's going to make a very big announcement on November 15th at Mar-a-Lago. I don't know what it could be.
You need to.
What?
Spexo, you need to watch the Trump speech from tonight. It was awesome.
Was
awesome. Yeah, he was literally like making like rape jokes and saying he's gonna kill drug. No, he said he's gonna kill drug dealers though. He said he's gonna send the bullets he uses to kill drug dealers.
So yeah, I haven't watched Trump in a while. Is he like talking about like that the election was stolen and all that stuff?
No, he went off today. It was like honestly like probably top 5 Trump speeches in my opinion.
Oh, yeah?
It was so good today.
Really?
Yeah.
Based?
Yeah, he was literally just talking about killing people, like straight up, just straight up killing people. It was awesome.
Punish Trump.
Awesome. Like literally just fed posting. He was like literally just fed posting. Like he said he's gonna kill the drug dealers. He's gonna like make the wall even bigger. It was so great. Oh.
I mean, look, I love Trump or whatever. I hope that he's learned his lesson. I hope that he's learned about the people who betrayed him, and that if he does,
I think he's made fun of Ron DeSantis this week. He made fun of him.
Yeah,
I think he's learning his lesson.
I think I feel that way too. Definitely 2016 energy again. But I just hope that he keeps that, because like you remember in 2016 he was talking about locking up Hillary Clinton. He was talking about all this other stuff. And then when he got in, and I understand that there was a lot of subversion within his campaign, within his cabinet and stuff like that or whatever, but like he really just didn't do a lot of stuff that he could have done. Even at the end, when he was pardoning all those people, he pardoned a bunch of criminal rappers instead of, like Snowden or whatever. So I don't know. I feel like I hope. I always have high hopes. I'll definitely be voting for him. I'm reluctantly going to vote tomorrow, I guess, even though I don't want to. But I hope Trump. I hope Trump wins, and I hope that he destroys the entire system like I was hoping he was going to do in 2016.
I think it's going to be different this time. Like just hearing the stuff he says, and like the way he's acting, like and the way he was treated in his presidency. I think he's definitely changed.
Does he seem pissed off?
I think he will be. Yeah.
Based.
Yeah.
That's what we need. We need angry Trump.
We do, man. We need an angry Trump.
And would that be the first president? Well, I don't know. But is this the first president who like did a term and then wasn't president?
He called Nancy Pelosi an animal. That was another funny moment. Called her an animal.
Is he the first president? If he gets reelected, would he be the first president that served a term and then took 4 years off and then like got elected again? Did anybody ever do that before?
You're asking the wrong guy. I have no
Papal,
idea.
you're a history nerd. Do you know?
What was your question? I'm sorry.
Did
He wouldn't know. Papal's a subverter. He's like literally Jewish.
Did any U.S. president ever like serve a term as president and then like not serve and then he did? You know what I'm saying? Like he got reelected like 4 years later or whatever.
I'm pretty sure plenty of them. Yeah, I
That's
know.
Grover Cleveland. Somebody
who-
says Grover Cleveland.
Grover Cleveland. I believe he was on the U.S. Supreme Court.
Imagine-
he was the
imagine-
22nd and 24th president. Wow.
Imagine
Yeah.
caring about presidents that aren't Donald Trump.
Wait.
That's kind of cringe, honestly.
Yeah. Did we ever have a good president before Trump? I don't.
Well, I don't know.
I'm thinking of Taft, actually.
people shill.
Yeah, Jefferson Davis.
Nixon.
Yeah,
Jefferson-
Nixon.
Jefferson Davis.
Jefferson
Calvin Coolidge.
Dave.
Who was the guy from the 20s? He was base. He basically had the white people
Roosevelt?
immigration. No, it was honestly, the reason why I don't like Teddy Roosevelt is because the people that like him are just so gay that like, I just by default hate him too.
Well, I just feel like that way about anybody who likes any president because I hate democracy. Was
True,
an American
true.
politician who
Besides Trump, I want Trump to be king or something.
because Trump is
We should be
Trump is
asking what-
Constantine.
Yeah,
We
he
should be
is.
asking what converted Roman emperor we like.
Yeah.
Hitler.
Who's your favorite pope?
It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Can we just all have a moment of that? What's his name?
Silence?
E. Michael Jones.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not silence. Can we give a round of applause for E. Michael Jones?
How about you
He's
get
on
muted?
Cozy.
How about you get
TV.
muted, Stan?
Stop.
No, I will not.
Stop, meeple. No abusing mod privileges anymore. Sure, we can give E. Michael Jones a hand.
I
He's on
wasn't
Cozy.
abusing
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah,
that's
let's-
no,
actually-
I love
no,
my E.
no.
Michael Jones. I wanted to get him on the show, but I just like he wants like a ahead of schedule like type thing. Oh, why is my hold on? I think my OBS.
I'm
is
actually
messed up for some reason.
surprised. I'm actually surprised he's on Cozy. I didn't expect that at all, to be honest.
Why? He's always been friendly to Nick and
Yeah, he's always been
Oh, yeah?
AF friendly.
He's-
always
Well, I
been
know,
AF
but
friendly.
isn't he? But isn't he on YouTube still? Or he's banned?
no.
No,
he's
he's on
banned.
bitch.
Oh,
He was
no,
one. He was one of
the.
the first people to get banned from YouTube.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I love EMJ though. I'm so happy he's on Cozy. Like
That's a huge plus in my book.
I
he's
hope he
awesome.
streams.
I love him so much.
I feel like a lot of these new guys just haven't been streaming.
He'll
Roger
stream
Stone
definitely.
not Roger Stone has streamed.
He's-
though.
he's
I
going
think
to stream.
I think Alec Alexander streamed too, but I don't really watch it. I didn't watch Alec Alexander. I watch Roger Stone.
I watch Nick
Huh?
Fuentes. I'm such a bad Cozy person. I watch Nick Fuentes. That's really the only content I consume. All right, just got really awkward and quiet.
Ethan Ralph.
Yeah.
Ethan Ralph.
Ethan Ralph.
I watch
Ethan
I watch,
Ralph.
I watch
Ethan Ralph.
Ethan.
Ralph.
I watch Ethan Ralph when like
Ethan
there's
Ralph.
like something big going on, like a big drama thing.
Ralph-a-mania is
Yeah,
running
because that's
wild
where
on
you
you,
go
brother.
for it.
Spexo, you should fight someone at Ralph Lane.
I want to fight. I want to fight religious hippie or Selena Gomez. So if anybody can make that happen.
Nah, religious hippie.
I mean,
hate-
to be
hate
fair, we
I don't
could
know.
get religious hippie on the show.
Selena Gomez. After this documentary I watched tonight, bro, I want to light her on fire. She's the worst
Bro.
person in like human history.
How-
I wanna-
Selena Gomez
imagine.
again?
Hold on.
Who's
Imagine
Selena
having.
Gomez again?
Imagine how she's like a pop star Mexican lady. I don't know, but she and she's
Oh.
30. I almost thought she was attractive, and then I looked on her Wikipedia, and she's 30 years old. I almost threw up. But so
Gross.
She
she.
used to date Justin Bieber.
Yeah. So she.
Icky.
Like imagine having hundreds of millions of dollars or however much she has, right? Let's look up her net worth. Selena Gomez net worth.
By the way, Spike, so you could get religious hippie on. She'll go on any show, to be honest.
No.
Of course she will. No, I'm not gonna say that. Hold on.
She's an e-girl.
She wouldn't go on. Spexo.
Static. I want to fight you, Ralph-a-mania.
Yeah.
I want to fight you.
So
Alright.
Selena
Boxing?
Gomez is
Yes.
worth $85 million,
Alright.
right? So imagine having $85 million and going to Africa and telling some poor African lady that probably doesn't even own shoes that she understands her struggles. Oh my gosh. I wanted to jump through the TV and choke her.
That's honestly kind of base. You're making me like her a little bit. Talking down the poor. She hates poor people.
If it was
That's kinda
if it was
base, I'm not gonna
ironic,
lie.
no, she thinks that she can
No,
relate to
not
it. But
ironic.
If she was ironic,
Not ironic.
if she was saying it ironically, that would be funny. But
No, she's talking down the poor people.
no, she's
So
not.
it's
She thinks that she can relate to them. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's like
Okay.
a base woman moment, but like not in the way she thinks. It is.
All right, stop simping for Selena Gomez. She's Mexican.
I'm not
Your
simping.
time.
I just-
You
I
can't- you
hate
can't
poor
get married.
I think you're simping a little bit, big guy.
It's not simping. I hate her. But like,
I'd say,
But it's like-
listen,
talking down
I'd
the
say,
poor
listen,
people's
you,
ways.
you and me, man to man, we need to have a talk. Your wife, religious hippie on Instagram, man, she be thirst posting all the time. What's going on?
Dude, listen,
come on.
I
Simp sap, soy sap. So sad.
Bro,
Wait.
I don't have any involvement with that, man.
Well, okay, who was the closest to her? You were literally like what, 10 feet away from her. You were at the same event as her, and you didn't put her in a chokehold and say stop thirst posting. You trad that wafu nonsense.
Wait, you think this chick is attractive? Hold on a minute. You almost thought this. Look at her face.
Who?
Look at her face.
Who?
Selena Gomez. Look at her head. Her head's huge.
What?
Selena Gomez. Her head's huge.
Hey, leave my
That's
Aryan.
My head's
queen
used
alone.
too.
Leave
That's
my
probably why.
Aryan
That's probably why.
queen
That's
alone.
probably why I almost thought
Did
she
you
was
say
attractive.
leave my?
No.
Did you just say
No,
leave my
don't
Aryan goddess alone?
Yeah.
That's
I
what
can't.
Static said. That's what Static said. That's what Static said. Did you guys hear what Static said? Static was literally calling her like an Aryan goddess, like a Pachimama.
Yo, every face she makes, she looks like she's uncomfortable. She looks like she's like holding in like the pain.
By the way,
She looks like the Pac-Man mama statue Pope Francis. What?
She uses freaking filters to make herself look better, but in reality, she's mid.
Yeah.
To be fair.
But she the ugliest thing about her though is that she's 30 years old. And once a girl turns 30, I just immediately don't want, like, I can't look at them as like they're attractive at all.
Concept, you have to save
Speak
your girl
for
before
yourself.
she turns
You're
30,
almost
dude.
30.
Who?
Bro, listen. I've already given up.
Hold on,
man.
did you say I'm almost 30? I'm a guy, all right? I get better with age, all right? I'll be good looking. I keep getting better looking every year, actually. I'll be doing that until I'm like fucking 45 probably, right? And then when I have gray
That's
hair
true.
and stuff like that, then I'm just going to do massive amounts of steroids and get jacked and grow a giant beard. I'm going to look awesome, all right? Girls get worse and worse after they're like 21.
Yo,
right?
base
So-
steroid user, steroid
Yeah.
abuser. Let's go. Let's go. That's base.
Base.
Oh, Spexo, by the way, I didn't know Big Tech was in the chat.
He just
I
came
never
in.
knew that.
He literally
that's
came in
epic.
like today.
He's actually good at religious
This is
debates.
not
He's
good for
like
my bro.
really good at them.
Who?
Is he Catholic?
But Big Tech, I don't know. He like demolished Adam Green.
Did he? Base?
So
Well, Adam Green's like an
liking
atheist.
the sound of that, frankly.
Did I,
Adam
something
Green's like a
did
literally
I say
Jewish
I
pagan.
didn't say the F word. I said something else. I don't think I said the F word. I said something else that begins with F and it might sound like that. I don't think I said the F word.
Spexo, did you fail no N-word November yet?
No,
I failed it.
I failed at
I did.
12 a.m. I failed it 4 seconds in.
I literally failed.
You know, dude,
I was like, all right, guys,
it's
it's 12
understandable.
a.m. I'm not going to say. And I was like, oh, all right.
Wait,
failed.
so no offense, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't watch the stream. I was watching the Trump speech the entire time. What was the topic about? Not to like rehash the entire stream.
Religious
well,
hippie.
I apologize.
It was just we were just
Let's go.
watching religious hippies Instagram the whole time for 2 hours.
Oh, it's based.
Yeah.
Based.
You know,
based.
posting
awesome.
TikToks.
Her
lip
awesome
syncing
content.
music.
So I got banned from Twitter, right? And I was like, okay, the one plus side of being banned from Twitter is that I'm not going to see religious hippie pop up on my feed every 2 seconds now on Catholic Twitter. Then I go to Instagram on the explore page and she's everywhere. Bro, I can't get away from this girl. Like, she needs to stop. She's stalking my
Spexo.
life with her horrible
Spexo,
content.
I think you need to understand that like religious hippies content is like really informative. Like when I watch her quote like movies or whatever, and it's like about the faith, you don't understand how much it's helped me in my theological formation.
Oh, and
You
she
know?
also is posting things that is technically, like, if you want to be autistic about it, like against the faith. She posted some really cringe thing where it was like, God loves you just the way you are enough or whatever. And it's like, no, that's the whole point of Christianity, is that you're not enough, that we need to work towards serving God, right? Like, and it's just like,
Actually, Spexo, that sounds quite judgmental. Okay,
yes, I am
and like
righteous
the Bible
judgment.
says, like,
I
judge
am
not.
righteously judging these trad dot Catholic LARPing wafus
No,
that
no,
need to be
Spexo.
put
My
in place.
transgender,
Spexo, in-
non-binary
in
queer
the
bishop
Bible,
said
in the
otherwise.
Bible, it says, "Judge not, my friend," and you are
That is,
judging.
and that's all it says. That's the
That's
whole
like
Bible.
the
The whole
only
Bible.
sin. That's like the only sin. The only sin that exists is judging.
But I'm calling out religious hippie for the millionth time. If somebody sends you this clip, fight me at Ralphomania, and the winner has to get offline forever. All right, that's the rules.
Pine Sap, I want
I mean, no, the loser. I'm sorry. Wait, hold on. The loser has to get offline forever.
Do you think there's a chance, Pine Sap, you could get Father Nolan on your guys' show? The FSSP priest?
I don't think I could.
Oh, 'cause he's so good. He's a great priest, man. He's
No,
epic.
he's really good.
Hey, Pine Sap, I have a request. Can you get There's this apologetics guy. It's like Miguel, I think Miguel Often.
Oh, no.
Miguel Often. Can you get him on? He's a really good Catholic apologetics man. I think he'd be great on
Mikael
this show.
Mikael Lofton?
Yo, when
Yeah.
are you gonna Pope Francis?
Dude, I don't know. I don't know.
Pine
He
Sap, can you
defends
get
the
Pope
Pope,
Francis
dude.
on? Can you get Pope Francis on Logos Triumphant?
If I got Pope Francis on, I wouldn't be able to speak. I'd be like prostrate on the floor the entire time.
When are you guys gonna get Baked Alaska on?
Dude,
That's my question.
you mentioned Pope Francis and the devil towards the beginning, and I went searching through all the digital books that I have, and I spent like the hour looking at them. I'm kind of sick of it. He mentions it so often in his homilies. I don't even have them all, and I found like tons and tons of references.
So what is this
There
thing?
you go.
Where did the whole thing come from? Like where people were saying that he denied hell?
Probably the like Scalafari interviews or whatever, which are like I'm pretty sure erroneous.
Wait,
within
they're saying
themselves
Pope Francis doesn't believe in hell? That's like
Yeah.
a dumb
Yeah.
Somebody sent the thing that was like
That's the dumbest-
a headline, which was probably just like a sensational headline, says Pope Francis says there's no hell, and even Joe Rogan said it on his Gay Faggot podcast.
I honestly,
legit,
hate
I-
Joe Rogan. hope he
I
gets
do
off.
want to fight Joe Rogan. That dude annoys me so much. I'm not even
He sucks.
kidding.
I was gonna say he's like
I hate
into
him.
like he's like
I hate
into
him.
like all that like martial arts and stuff like that, but I'm like 3 feet taller than him, so I think if I just sit on him, he would die. So I'll fight Joe Rogan. Let's go.
He's starting to do that. He's starting to. I don't know if you've seen him, but maybe it's just me. But it almost seems like his like pecs are looking now like man boobs too.
Yeah, it's gynoplasty.
Because like he's getting like older, and he's
But
having that
who
like
is-
gross thing.
It's gyno.
What'd
It's
you
gyno.
say?
It's gyno from steroid use, from not properly
Yeah.
taking like estrogen regulators or whatever.
Yeah, I mean it's
It's
literally
weird.
that, and it's like it's gross. I don't want to see it. You know.
By the way, he's shorter than Matt Walsh because Matt Walsh was on his podcast.
I thought Matt Walsh was like 6 foot. He's not.
I don't know. The guy's beard's weird. He has a weird beard.
Weird beard. Matt
He
Walsh
does.
is I don't know. I don't know. He's meh. I know Jackson likes him. I don't like him obviously for political reasons because he's like he works for Ben Shapiro and he called Nick Fuentes a white supremacist, and he said that the guys that killed Ahmaud Arbery deserve the death penalty and were racist or whatever. So he's kind of gay, and also he's another one that like just like aims at low-hanging fruit and doesn't really say anything super controversial, but everybody just thinks that he's based. And I feel like he's like he's there to be like a gatekeeper, kind of. He's a super gatekeeper.
It kind of sounds like you. That kind of sounds like Pine Sap.
Yeah.
You
that
think
is-
you're describing Pine Sap, but kind of missed the
Oh,
conversation.
Matt Walsh. Wait, hold on. Wow, he's only
Let me
wow.
ask
I
you
am
this.
so old. He's only 7 years older than me. Jeez, I thought he was in his 40s. Oh my goodness.
Oh, he
Also,
has
did you
4
see?
kids, I
Did you see? Height. How? Hold on. Oh yeah. Matt Walsh is 6 foot. He's still an inch short than human. But did you see Ben Shapiro talking on that Lex Friedman's podcast or whatever? Apparently, he was like saying that it's anti-Semitic for Christians to try to convert Jews.
I agree.
Yeah.
Wait. Oh yeah, dude, I did see that.
I agree.
He just revealed his hand. He just
not
revealed his
hiding
hand.
anymore.
That's literally what the ADL says.
Yeah.
ADL says if you believe that the ADL essentially says if you do not believe in Judaism, you're anti-Semitic.
Yeah, basically. And it's like
Based.
it's like so the church defines anti-Semitism in a certain way, and if we meet those qualifications, we can't then we're in error, right? Like we can't blatantly hate Jews,
Right.
We can't be cruel to them and stuff like that. But if all of these other random things are anti-Semitic and that's what they consider in the secular world, then what's wrong with saying you're anti-Semitic then, right? Because if you're saying that like trying to convert Jews is anti-Semitic, well, I'm going to always try to convert Jews, so I guess I'm an anti-Semite then. Like it's retarded.
Yeah, I mean, at some point it gets so ridiculous. You just have to be like, I am who I am. You know what I mean? Like, okay, if you're gonna call me anti-Semitic, then whatever.
That makes me anti-Semitic.
You know?
I embrace it.
Also,
I-
speaking oh, sorry.
They changed the definition to
Oh,
make you they want you to be.
What the? Is that Ray? What is going on with your?
Ray's trying to
Are you,
speak,
are
but
you
it's
talking
like
to a
it's
fan?
like
What are you
robot
doing?
moment.
As we're speaking about
Maybe it's
Daily
like-
Wear, how long are you guys going to take until Candace Owens gets fired?
I'm surprised she's still there. She's only still there because she's black. If she wasn't black, she would be fired already.
Yeah. Well, I think she'll be fired soon because she's
Because
not backing
she's-
down.
Because she's. I've always said. What? Hold on. Speak, Ray. Try again.
Can you guys hear me now?
Translation.
Kind of.
Ching chong ping chong. Can you?
Oh.
Okay.
That's
so-
disgusting. Why did you say
Hold on.
that,
Hold
Ray?
on.
It's so gross. I don't know why.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had to. I
You
forgot I
freak.
was speaking to humans. So, but I was saying, like, that's how the ADL gets you. They change as long as you change the definition. That's what you are.
Yeah.
That's how
You're
it
not
works.
you're not an anti-Semite. Oh well, yeah. Let me just change the definition. Oh, looks like you're an
I kinda
anti-Semite.
want-
Give me your children. It's retarded.
I kind of want an
Hey.
ADL for Catholics. Like, I wish the ADL was Catholic.
Yo, I was saying
Then it
that.
would be
Like,
based.
I mean, this sounds kind of Fed posting and wig
Actually,
nanny, but
there
the way-
is.
What?
There is a ADL for Catholics.
No, but like I want them to do
No.
the same thing as the ADL,
Yeah, not-
where it's
not
like
with
if you
their
blaspheme
power. Yeah.
Yeah, if you like blaspheme Jesus, like you get canceled and
Yeah.
like fired.
Oh yeah.
Like I
They,
want
they
that to
don't
happen.
nearly have the same power, but what's his name? Bill Donahue founded a Catholic rights organization for the United States.
Based. Like I kind of want
What'd you
like
just send me?
basically
What'd you
like
just send me?
I don't know why, but when we were talking about Candace Owens, it reminded me of this show that I found today on Fox Soul. It is
Fox
the worst
Soul?
thing I have
Oh,
ever
I'm playing it,
seen.
I'm
It
playing
is the worst thing I've ever
I'm not gonna
seen.
play the whole thing.
I think you
It's
mean
funny.
based in Red Pill.
Hold on.
I think you mean based in Red Pill.
company made a movie.
I'm happy that
Just-
What, do you
Just
have
start
a
it, bro.
Do you have a time
Was it
stamp?
like
Like a timestamp?
No,
we don't
it's not even timestamp. Just start the episode and see how long you can last.
All right. Hold on. Everybody be
I
quiet.
lasted
All right.
about.
Democrats are crazy. Mm-hmm. Was it
Studios
like that?
like Paramount made their own content.
Hold on.
I don't know how to explain it. It's just a sassy black woman who just says some stuff.
Don't need no
Hi,
white
Zach,
man
stop
telling her what
doxing
to
your
do.
girl.
All right.
Stop doxing your girl.
Who's that?
Stop talking.
I mean,
Sassy black
she's pretty. I'm not gonna lie, she's pretty. All right, hold up. Let's go.
Own their own content
Guys are
and
such
own the rights
simps.
to show their content.
Oh, never mind. She talks. She's
Translation?
not pretty anymore. I heard her talk. She's not
Translation?
talk. She's not pretty at all.
The Paramount consent decree was essentially
32. So
a peace
Yeah.
treaty.
What
A
is
treaty
this?
between the big movie studios and the U.S. government, stopping movie studios from becoming monopolies that only release their
Oh,
movies
great.
into
Another
their own
Kennedy
movies.
Hall
Hitler's
video.
children. What the?
Wonderful.
Wait, hold on. Is she? What? All right. Yeah, I'm not watching this. what,
Back in the day,
what was?
share it. I can't listen. Share it.
I'm trying to find that picture she just posted. It was like a movie theater saying like Hitler's children or something.
Based?
All right,
I mean,
whatever. I'll have to
I
watch that
disavow.
later.
I disavow. Oh, are you on
What's
YouTube?
What's her name?
Spencer, are you on YouTube?
Am I on YouTube? Yes. Oh wait, no. You mean
no,
am I
Spe-
streaming?
Yeah.
No, I'm banned from posting on YouTube for a week.
Oh,
I don't know. Apparently, my last gaming stream, we did some hate speech. We engaged in some hate speech, which
I probably said something I shouldn't have
Guys,
said.
I'm sure you guys use the N-word a lot of times doing that.
surprisingly
Oh,
not. That was like the whole challenge too. That I was trying not to say the N word, and I succeeded. I don't know what. I don't know
Dude,
what we said.
I saw your vein popping out when you were trying not to. You're like,
Pints at Kennedy Hall has another stream again. Guess what it's about? Vatican II. Again.
We're trying to get him. We're trying to.
Oh,
get him to
is it the
debate
one
us,
that-
debate, Pints Up.
dude, Kennedy Hall. I wrote a comment on your YouTube channel. You never responded to me, bro. Are you gonna put your money where your mouth is? Or are you gonna keep blaspheming the church? Or are you gonna respond? I'm waiting.
Dude, it's hard to take him seriously in way or form. It's hard to take that dude seriously.
Who's Kennedy
It
Hall?
is.
Was that? Wait. So when is that?
That's the exact
Is that
question.
when you commented on it and you said Spexo and somebody sent you the article they wrote about me or whatever as like a reply?
Yeah. Yeah, the ridiculous SSPX Mad Trad guy. Great example of Mad Trad's charity. Literally sends a lefty article to me about you and stuff like that, and we need to resist this fascist and stuff like that.
Wow.
Really shows where their heart's at. So I'm so
Yo, what a
vindicated in
coward.
going against
What
them.
a coward too, though. Like, yo, oh yeah, no, I'm the real rad trad traditionalist. Oh wait, you do a podcast with this guy? A leftist said he was a white supremacist. Are you serious? How could you do that? Are you really? You fucking sorry. Oh, that was almost an F bomb. You LARPing fag.
But yeah, like this homie was like, "Oh, Spexo, that schizo, you mean?" And then he said your real name and stuff like that. I was like, "Dude, what the hell's wrong with you?" And then he's like, sends me the article, and I reported both comments. I was like, "I'm not having none of this." But I was like, "Yeah, I'm so vindicated and go every single time a Rad Trad's like, Pine Sap, dude." Have a little charity and stuff like that, and then literally doxes your name, and I'm like, okay, well,
Yeah. Scumbags. It's all good.
Like, yeah, seriously. And if conservatives are still complaining about being worried about being called Nazis or white supremacists, they're not on our side. Like, screw it, man. Like,
By the way, Pinechap's real name is Peter.
Yeah.
Peter.
That's where Peter lives in,
Yeah,
a,
dude,
in a
you-
dorm that looks like an insane asylum.
Meatball knows my real name, and he laughed. He laughed when I told him it because he was not
For like a
expecting
good 5
it.
minutes. For like a good 5
I know
minutes.
Pinecap,
Meatball's real
how
name
many,
too.
Pinecap,
Meatball's real
how many
name
times,
is retarded.
Whoa,
how
you
many
got
times
retarded.
Kennedy Hall made freaking streams about Vatican II? I can't even count how many he's done.
Wait, so is Kennedy Hall like
He's
right
getting
wing, or
worse.
is
I
he,
think
like...
I think he is like suffering a form of like spiritual like
Delusion. Pre-lest.
delusion. Well, I know I use this word a lot, but like honestly, pre-lest, like he is like obsessed with Archbishop Lefebvre, like obsessed to a point where he sees him as like,
As God.
yeah, like as God or something. And then like you know, on top of that, he literally has a video titled "Vatican II Ruined Everything." Why am I Catholic at that point?
Subtle.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
So-
like why would I be Catholic at that point? Who's gonna look at that video and then be like, "But dude, the gates of hell will never prevail." It's like what?
It's not.
I don't
even
know.
like
It's a
an
pretty
hour
convincing
long, it's
argument
like
as to why you
10
should be
video.
Catholic. You know, it should
Yeah,
be really
dude,
cool.
I honestly, someone's gonna look at that and be like, "Yeah, dude, that's convincing."
Oh, yo,
I want to become
my vote.
Orthodox.
I was walking
I
in
want
the
to become
park.
Orthodox.
Yeah, I was
Become Orthodox.
I was walking in the park today with my kids, right? And I saw this dude working out, right? It was like this tall, jacked, good-looking guy, right? And he was working out, and I'm walking past him, and I was wearing an America First shirt, right? And he was like, "I like your shirt," and I didn't even realize what shirt I was wearing. I was like, "Oh, thanks." And then he was like, "You watch Nick?" And then I looked down. I was like, "Oh, yo, you watch Nick or whatever?" And then I was like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Have you ever been to AFPAC?" Blah blah. I was like, I stream on Cozy. Do you know who I am? He was like, "No." I was like, "Oh, sick." And then I was like, what's it called? We started talking or whatever. And he was like, "Can you believe what they're doing to Kanye? They're proving our points and blah blah." And all that stuff. It was awesome. I was like, I can't believe that in New York City, in a random park that I happened to go to, somebody like knew America First and Nick Fuentes. That was crazy.
Spexo, there's a huge Groyper scene in New York. There's a huge Groyper scene.
What?
Huge.
Apparently.
Groypers.
Well, let's go.
There's a
Yo,
lot of
we got
Groypers in New York.
975 followers on Cozy. We're almost at 1,000, bro. That's awesome.
Dude, let's go, man. We're
Let's
so
go.
close.
Oh man,
Why didn't Trump announce tonight?
it's kind of, I guess it was just like out of nowhere. And Benny Johnson's known for lying a lot, so even Ali Jamal and Roger Stone like said he's not gonna announce tonight, the day before the midterms, so it would be weird.
That would have been a surprise though if he did. But yeah, everybody's saying that like New York is so strong with Groypers. I only know Tenrio, the guy that I met today, and I know some people from like Jersey or whatever, but I don't know anybody that like is from the tri-state area, or New York City, I should say, in like the 5 boroughs. But if you are in the 5 boroughs, hit me up on Telegram, and not to be fed or anything like that, but like maybe we could get a group going or something. But yeah.
Maybe we could all meet outside of the Capitol building, and we could.
Yeah, we could teach each other how to build bombs and talk about how much we hate the government. Yeah.
Because of the Patriot Fund.
For
and literally
legal
do
reasons, this is a
military
joke.
law.
For legal reasons, this is the joke. We're joking. We're not actually.
Yeah, we are
disavow violence.
joking. We are not.
disavow all
We
violence.
do not.
We disavow all
Yes,
violence.
we disavow
We're
all
Catholic.
violence.
I disavow
We're
all
Catholic.
violence
I'm gonna-
unless the Pope commands me to.
Meatball,
If the
I'm
Pope
gonna
commands
do-
me
I'm
to
gonna do
commit
a pat down.
violence,
I'm gonna do a pat down Patriot Fund style.
yeah.
Really? Let's go. Can I help? I'm the best at
Sure.
those. I'm the best at those
Why
pat
not?
downs.
What happened? Somebody came into the
I-
chat recently shilling Patriot Front. I forgot who. These people are retarded.
That was a while ago.
No, there was a new
Okay.
person. Like it was like a couple days ago.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Honestly-
he's like in the
Spexo, can we ban all Wignats on site? If they
Yeah,
enter
of
the
course.
chat?
Yeah.
It's just like
Yes,
I
that's.
can't. I honestly hate them. Like, I
They
hate them.
expose
I
themselves.
hate
They're like
them.
women. Like even if like we don't know they're a woman, eventually they're gonna expose themselves for being women. They get banned. So any Wignats that come
Or
into
they
the chat.
send gay porn. Or they send gay porn.
Yeah, have you? I don't know. I don't know if you were there for that Pine Sap. This happened like 4 days in a row. Like I guess like some Wignat channel found my channel somehow, and they was just spamming gay porn in my chat like over and over again. It was disgusting.
That happened to
So,
my channel.
Yeah, we had to ban it, and then we had to turn off all stickers and media for like a few days or whatever. It was, but it's just like, what do you think you're accomplishing? First of all, why do you have that on your phone to be rating
owning
people
the
on that? Yeah,
Catholics.
we're owning the
Special,
Catholics by
they're owning the
sending
Catholics.
black gay porn. First of all, you have to have that on your phone constantly to send it. You're sending it and then
only
immediately getting
black.
banned. So nothing is really getting accomplished. It's just we see something gross for 2 seconds and then we ban you. It's like it makes absolutely no sense. It's like all these Jesus freaks are fags. We're gonna send them gay porn to show them that who the real trads are. It just makes no sense.
They also think that-
Spexo, go ahead, Static. I just
Oh, no,
wanted
no,
to tell you something cool, Spexo.
Oh no, continue, fine. Sorry about that.
Well, I was gonna say, do you want me to read the 1928 Holy Office talking about anti-Semitism and its definition?
Yes, let's go.
Yes,
Okay,
let's go.
so this is from the unfinished encyclical. Sorry, there's a car speeding outside on the street. This is from the unfinished encyclical by Pius XI called Humanae Generis Unitas, which condemned kind of the Nazis' anti-Semitism and stuff like that. And in it is quoted the Holy Office condemnation of March 25th, 1928 of anti-Semitism, and the church defines it this way. The Catholic Church habitually prays for the Jewish people who were the bearers of the divine revelation up to the time of Christ. This, despite indeed on account of their spiritual blindness. Actuated by this love, the Apostolic See has protected this people against unjust oppression, and just as every kind of envy and jealousy among the nations must be disapproved of, so in an especial manner must the hatred, which is generally termed anti-Semitism, meaning it is not anti-Semitism to pray for the conversion of the Jews or anything like that. It's only anti-Semitism if you actually hate Jews and what have you. So, boom.
Based. Yo, Chief Trumpster.
Issue settled.
Everybody needs to follow Chief Trumpster if you're not following him. Very good guy.
Yeah, he's awesome. I love Chief.
Yeah, Chief is based. I love Chief.
So
He helped me get OBS set up and helped me not be a tech boomer.
Yeah, he tried to help me with Stripe. I still couldn't figure it out. But we actually got to do that. I want to get on what is it, Power Chat? But we got to set up a Stripe account. Maybe we could do like a something where it's we both run it or something. I don't know, but
I think we can, because you basically make like a business or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We'll call it Logos Triumphant.
Actually, that's actually a good idea, because they were asking me for like a bunch of Power Chat wasn't, but to make a Stripe account, they were asking me for a bunch of like personal information, and I was like, I didn't have to do this for like PayPal. Why do I have to do this for Stripe? So I don't know, but maybe if we make it like a business thing, if we could do that legally, we'll set it up so we could both access it, because that'd be cool instead of me having the transfer every time. But yeah, that'd be good.
I'm cool with sharing one with you, bro. That's totally fine.
Can I share? Can you share the money with me too? Like I get like 90% of it or something.
Yeah, I think we've
Oh,
made.
yeah,
I
dude.
think so.
Do you want a big kiss with that too?
I want to see since.
I don't even need to ask for that.
Gay pal.
Well, Spexon, don't only kick Wignats, kick also DeSantis Shields.
Well, okay, here's the thing. If they come in and they want to have like a sincere conversation, because you guys do get a little autistic sometimes, right? If they want to ask questions and they're not in the know and they're trying to have a good faith conversation, even if they don't agree with us on everything, entertain it for a little bit until it gets to the point. Yeah, kill them. Just choke them out.
In Minecraft.
But
in Minecraft.
but no, try to actually like engage with them a little bit, have a conversation with them, explain why they're retarded, and if they're not receptive to that and they keep going on and throwing insults and stuff like that, then you could ban them. But just don't ban them on site. Okay. Only people that you ban on site are women, except for Michelle and Susie. Michelle left on her own accord because you guys like groiped her, I guess. Susie, yeah, don't do that though, because she's a Gen X AF mom or whatever. She sends cringe memes, but she means well. Susie, also another Gen X mom. She's cool. Who else? I think that's it. Vika or something. Vika. Papal shills for her. I don't really know her, but apparently she's cool. So.
I don't. How do I shill for her? What are you talking about?
Because you're a simp.
You're the one that told me not to ban her. You're the one that told me not to ban her.
That's not true. Absolutely not.
I thought it was. Somebody told me not to ban her. Whatever. All right. So it wasn't PayPal. I don't know who it was then. I could have sworn. I could have sworn.
That was Office Girl.
Could have sworn it was you. Anyway, but yeah, all other girls immediately banned. Who else? But yeah, Wignats and people that are anti-AF and anti-Catholic, you could ban immediately on site.
It's on site.
Is it a sin to not go to mass if I have COVID? You would have to. Oh, God, sorry.
No, if you miss mass for medical reasons, meaning you're sick, you have a dispensation to do that. So you're okay then. You don't sin.
Yeah, but like I don't know. I guess with COVID, if you really don't want to risk spreading it or whatever, but like also if you have like a little cold, don't like over exaggerate your sickness because you don't want to go to mass. Don't use it as an excuse to go to mass. Like if you really feel like you are sick and you don't want to harm other people or you feel too weak to get out, then that's a valid excuse not to go to mass. But don't try to use that as an excuse to get out of going to mass, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
My priest said the All Souls Day Mass like sick as a dog. So, I mean, he's obligated to like more than even us, but you know.
There's just he said thank you. There's just a lot of old people at my parish. Oh, then go there with COVID and cough on all of them. All right, we need the younger generation to take over.
Wait.
I'm kidding.
wait.
Don't do that.
Kidding.
Don't do that. What? What'd you say?
What? I said I wasn't kidding. I think you should do that.
What was it?
Disavow.
Yeah, I forgot I was gonna say
As a
something.
joke in Minecraft, like in like the game Grand Theft Auto,
Yeah.
get like a virus.
Press the coughing key.
Coughing key.
What else?
Oh man.
All right.
I'm trying to think of what else, bro. Oh, Eric Ybarra's papacy book just came out.
Oh, let's go. What's it called? Is it on Amazon?
It is on Amazon and it's on the St. Paul Resource Center.
Eric.
Soy sap.
It's like with a K, right? How do you spell the name? CK?
It's Eric, ERICK,
Yeah, Eric,
and then
yeah.
Ybarra, YBARRA. So I actually made an error. That's not the book that has 20 documents never translated into English. That book is actually a different one that is coming out pretty soon, either in December or January, by Father Christian Kappas and William Albrecht. That's the one that has the 20 new documents, but Eric Ybarra's book is still really awesome and really cool, and I highly recommend it.
Eric Ybarra has like 7 books. And
Yeah, dude, he's been writing a lot.
His newest book is $45. What the?
It's pretty expensive, but he does go through like a lot in
792
it.
pages. What the heck? Bro.
Yeah.
792 pages. Jeez Louise. And his last book came out in May. Hold up. Where is it?
That was the Filioque book, right?
I do
June,
not
I'm sorry.
regret posting his comment in the Eastern Catholicism chat where he said, I offered for Jay to take down the debate because I think he embarrassed himself.
That was so good. That was so funny.
And he just said it like so humbly and like casually too.
Yo, this dude must be writing multiple books at the same time because he released a book in May.
Yeah.
And that book has 248 pages. And then he released a book in June that has 151 pages. So, I mean, I guess they're shorter books, but then to release them one after the other, and then he releases another one 6 months later in November with 792 pages. That's crazy.
He's prolific, dude. And I mean, Michael Lofton actually credits him with helping him come back to the Catholic Church a lot. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, his writings on the papacy are very, very good because he talks about a lot of obscure things that people don't really oftentimes talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Eric Ybarra is like a savant, and he does all this stuff. He has like 9 kids too. Like he has massive amounts of children too, and he's like super. He might be the only person that like comes close to you with being able to like just recite encyclicals like that. It's insane.
I mean, he's insane. Very humble. He's got big family, beautiful wife. I mean, he's a great dude, honestly. In fact, actually, I might even see tonight, bro, if you want. We can both contact him in the Eastern Catholic chat and ask him if he wants to come on. We just need to add him and just be like, hey, do you want to come on the show?
Yes.
I'm sure he would say yes to us.
He's awesome. I love him so much. He's like one of my.
He's such a great dude.
Like that debate, because I like I said, when I was like going through like my conversion to Catholicism or whatever, and or like trying to figure out if Catholicism or Orthodoxy was right, I was watching like countless Jay Dyer debates or whatever, and it seemed like he was destroying everybody, right? And then like I never saw him lose a debate so badly until it was against Ybarra, and I was like, holy crap.
It was a slaughter,
like
dude.
He just like had a breakdown and he couldn't like function. Like he didn't know how to respond because nobody like ever got him that way, and he just started throwing insults. Oh, you're an idiot. You're fat. Like, oh, like it was just like it was so bad.
And then he had to get out the old whiteboard, and he's like, so if you don't understand, or I don't know if he did that during the debate. I'm trying to remember, but like he was like, if you don't understand this, I don't know how to explain it.
What he was trying to
you.
do, he was taking like one like papal document or whatever, or a church document, right, and saying like, well, this proves the papacy, and like Eric Ybarra was like, well, you can't look at that without looking in the context of these other ones that confirm the papacy, which then by and large everything working together confirms the papacy. And he was like, but we're not talking about the other ones, we're just talking about this one or whatever. And Eric Ybarra was like, okay, but you're not understanding that you can't just look at that out of context or whatever. And it was just not like comprehending in Jay's head.
And then the post-debate review with Craig Trulio was really funny, because Craig is like, the thing I don't like about Eric Ybarra is he'll take a subject and then he brings in outside information that helps him with that subject. So I'm like, literally just debating. I'm like, these guys are an embarrassment.
So
like,
crazy.
This is the best that the Eastern Schism has to offer, bro. Like, come on.
It's really weird, because like you'll think somebody is like such a great debater and like that he's just like anybody that comes at him he can just destroy or whatever, and then one person will just embarrass him like that, and it's like, wow, that's crazy.
It's insane, dude. And I mean, like like I said, like even when you do some reading on your own, you realize how goofy this is. I mean, like I told you, this book alone, it ends the debate. I mean, this little guy here, like it's no debate after that. Because if you prove the papacy to be true and the papal claims to be true, then it's like all the other side things don't matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Somebody says, can I get your take on people who are martyred in a state of mortal sin? Do you think salvation is still possible? Yes, absolutely. That's
Oh yes, baptism of blood.
Yeah. If you're martyred, it's an automatic, like it's a loophole to heaven basically. So if I want to go to like Afghanistan, or is ISIS still around? If I want to go to like ISIL territory or whatever and like walk through the streets saying Christ is king, and just hope for like a terrorist to come kill me or whatever, would that be considered martyr, or is that suicide?
That would maybe be a little suicidal, but if you're trying to evangelize,
a splash of suicide.
But if you're trying to evangelize to the people there, then I would say that was all right.
All right. So my intention has to be to evangelize, not to get killed by a Muslim terrorist.
Yes,
but if I happen to get killed by a Muslim terrorist, I'm going to heaven right away.
Then you're going to heaven, dude.
Who wants to take a trip to Afghanistan with me? Who wants to go evangelize Afghanistan?
Static knows a few people in Afghanistan. He's like an Arab.
Yeah, that's true.
Arab.
Static does look the most Afghan.
Static, cook us up. Static, cook us up. We want to be evangelists.
That is slander. You'll be hearing from my lawyer tomorrow. That is slander.
Well, I mean, Meatball, you kind of also could be any race as well. Like you could, if you told me you were half black, I would believe you. Or if you were like Indian or Arab or any
I'm swarthy.
type
Swarthy.
of. You are brown. You're Italian.
Jewish.
You're Italian. I know you're Italian, so you could play basically any race except for Asians, like we discussed.
You could.
Yeah. Static. Yeah. Static is definitely more on the Arab side, like, or actually honestly, Indian too. If you wore some makeup, I could see you as an Indian.
Next year, I'm totally saying I'm half black.
Yeah.
That and like I'm half Muslim. And I'm literally gonna get free college. It's gonna be awesome.
Have I ever seen the movie Beckett? It's pretty good. It's about St. Thomas Becket. I was thinking of A Man for All Seasons about St. Thomas More, I believe. That's really good. I have not seen Beckett. Let me look that up.
Beckett is really good.
There's a movie I still gotta finish about Saint Assisi. It was like father son something. Beckett.
Oh, brother, son, and sister Moon.
Yeah. All right, Beckett.
That's a fantastic movie too.
1964. King Henry II of England comes to terms with his affection for his close friend and confidant Thomas Becket, who finds his true honor by observing God's divine will rather than the king's. Makes it sound a little homoerotic by that description.
No, it's not. It's a fantastic movie. And also, what was I gonna say? The movie Brother, Sun, and Sister Moon, my favorite scene in that movie is when Saint Francis of Assisi meets Pope Innocent III. That's like a scene for like movie history. It is just amazing. It's awesome. It's so like it brings out the best of Pope Innocent III, and it brings out the best of Saint Francis of Assisi.
Based.
Because they both like reform the church in a very meaningful way.
Yeah, I gotta watch that. It's very. I'm like a total like I don't know what you call it. Like I hate sometimes watching like old movies or whatever, but then I do and like I like them. But like it's like very hard. It's like, oh, this movie was made before 2005. I don't want to watch it. But the movie A Man for All Seasons, right? My favorite scene in that movie is when his daughter's boyfriend comes in. He's like, I love your daughter. I want to be there for her for the rest of her life. I'll take care of her or whatever. I want to ask for her hand in marriage. And he's like, no, you're a Protestant. I'm not going to let her marry a heretic or whatever. I was like, that's me.
That's literally me, dude.
I'm literally St. Thomas More.
That is an awesome scene, though. Oh my goodness.
We need to have more anti-Protestant movies, honestly. Like specifically Protestant.
I think
every movie is anti-Christian, but we need like from a Catholic perspective, specifically anti-Protestant movies.
Like the Catholic priest is a lot more reasonable and stuff like that, and the minister is like, I'm a drinking man and I feel the Holy Spirit through me, and the priest is like my son.
Like the propaganda against white people where they're always showing like the white person as like weak and like effeminate and stuff like that. I want that, but I want it for Protestants where like the Catholic is always like the Chad or whatever, and then the Protestant comes in, he's just like retarded.
That would be amazing.
That's the world. That's the world I want to live in.
That's the world I want to live in, dude.
Where are we? Dun, dun. Flower of Saint Francis is such a good movie. I never heard of that. Flower of Saint Francis. The flower. Okay, what is it? 1950. Jeez. Is there any like movies about saints that were made like in the last 40 years?
There's a really good documentary on Saint Francis Xavier that was made in like 2005.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's why I got to finish that Padre Pio TV movie. That was really good. Fatima was pretty good. I didn't like that they ended it with a Albert Einstein quote. I thought that was really cringe. Like, how are you gonna have a movie about Catholicism and an apparition of the Virgin Mary, and then have a Jewish atheist quote at the end of it? It's insane.
That is, what was even the quote?
Let's see. I don't know. Let's see if I can find it.
I was also trying to find a really funny
Fatima
description.
It opens with the quote. Okay, Albert Einstein. There are two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. Which, okay, that's not a bad quote, I guess, but he, once again, Jewish atheist, like, helped make the atom bomb. Anti-Catholic to the extreme. Like, why would you couldn't pick anybody else for a quote for your movie about the most famous apparition of the Virgin Mary in, like, human history? Really?
It's crazy, man. Sometimes these boomers just don't really put two and two together and really think through. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, let's just. Oh, go ahead.
So that comedy special by Ari Shafer called Jew just released, right? And it's actually like really funny. Like he's obviously says some cringe anti-Catholic stuff or whatever, but like it's actually like inadvertently red pilling because it talks about all the insane practices that Orthodox Jews do or whatever. And he was talking about he said, oh yeah, so the Ashkenazis, we went to like Europe and stuff like that, and then you had the Sephardics, they went to Syria and all those places or whatever. So those people are called Sephardic, or as my mother calls them, animals, right? And then what did he say? He said, he was talking about the capricot or whatever, where they sacrifice the chickens. You know what I'm talking about? Where Orthodox Jews, they think that they have this thing once a year where they believe that they could put their sins into a live chicken, and then they slit the chicken's throat, swing it around their head, and then dispose of the chicken. They think that the sins go into the chicken, and then they are forgiven for their sins, right? Retarded, gross, very unhygienic, total satanic nonsense, right? So he's talking about that.
I was gonna.
What?
I just wanted to say real quick. They also like get money and wave it over their head in the same way and burn the money.
Yeah. Well, so that was actually part of the joke. So he tells about how the chickens do it, right? And he's talking about how like a couple years later, he goes to his father, and his father's like a super Orthodox Jew or whatever, and his father is throwing this bread around his head or whatever, right? And he's like, "What are you doing?" And he was like, "Do you remember the ritual with the chicken?" And he was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Well, you can do that with other things like bread or money or whatever." And he was like, "Wait, you had a choice and you chose to slaughter a chicken and wave it around your head." So it was just showing like all the insane things with Orthodox Judaism. And my friend's dad was watching with him, and he was like getting like disgusted with like some of the stuff that like he was talking about that Jews did, and it was like red pilling his father. He was like, "I thought that Jews were just Christians that just followed the Old Testament and just didn't believe in the New Testament. What the heck is this?" Like he had no idea. And I feel like this comedy special is like showing like all this insane stuff that they do.
It's like suddenly Paul Schmager starts playing in the background as like as the comedy special goes on, and it's just unintentionally red pilling to everybody.
Facts.
Like, wait a minute.
Somebody says, thoughts on lil dumb people who believe in Pope Joan, the female pope myth. I've never heard of that.
Oh yeah, it's this stupid medieval myth. Well, it's not even like a medieval myth. I think it literally was invented in like the 1700s, that there was this woman who managed to trick everyone that she was a man, and she became the pope, and then it was only revealed that she was the pope when she like had a baby during like a procession, and they killed the baby and killed her and stuff like that. Just some nonsense,
I don't
bro.
think that ever happened ever.
No, it didn't. In fact, actually, Patrick Madrid talks about it in Pope Fiction, and which I got right here, and talks about how false it is. It literally was just like made up as a story.
I said it was invented by Reformed Anglicans, he thinks.
Oh, of course, dude. The Reformed Anglicans doing the work of the devil. Why am I
It
not
was
surprised?
like the low church ones, the non-Catholic ones. They like invented the idea that there was a female pope because they wanted to disprove the idea of like papal supremacy, because they're saying like, well, there's a female pope, and therefore there's no pope at all, which is kind of funny because they ended up ordaining women supposedly. So
What's also hilarious too. So I was reading this about St. John Henry Newman the other day. So there were some cringe liberals that were trying to be like, St. John Henry Newman was gay because he loved his friend Ambrose St. John, and like Ian Kerr, who was a Catholic priest, God rest his soul. He actually, I think, just passed away, and hopefully he's in heaven with our Lord rejoicing right now. But Ian Kerr in his biography completely debunks them. No, St. John Henry Newman was not a homosexual or anything like that. But what was very funny is there was this guy who founded like this Protestant thing called like Muscular Christianity in like the 1800s. And I think he was a low church Anglican. And he actually said to like St. John Henry Newman, like, you're gay because you want to be celibate and not like sleep around with women and stuff like that. And then one of St. John Henry Newman's friends actually wrote and basically called the guy a coomer and said that it was more masculine to like want to like retain your celibacy and virginity than like being a gross coomer, like this Muscular Christianity guy. And it was really awesome, actually.
The Zoomer Pope is gonna anathemize coomers.
They're like, what do you mean? I can't. Well, actually, Pope Innocent III literally wrote an entire section of when he was a cardinal of like why you shouldn't get married and you should be celibate. It's pretty awesome. So I'm like, incels stay winning, bro.
So true.
Also, Specs, if you have something to bring up, go ahead. But I wanted to share something very entertaining with you that I found the other day. So Father Thomas Bocanetter, who is like kind of one of those boomer Jesuits and stuff like that, he writes this book called The Church and Revolution, and he talks about like, Catholic reformers for democracy or something like that. But his biography of have I told you about Umberto Benigni?
I don't think so.
He was like Louis Vuitton. He was like a hardcore like ultramontanist, super like anti-liberal. He in his preamble of his group, the Solidatum Pianum, says like, we fight the enemies within, which are modernists, and then we fight the enemies without. And he says, quote, the Judeo-Masonic sects and those directly allied with them.
Let's go.
And he says, and we're not willing to weaken society and lulling it to sleep under the Judeo-Masonic nightmare.
Yo, you know what's
But
funny? I was
the
using
op-
that term so long, and I thought like I made it up, like because I never heard anybody use it. I just like started using it. I don't know if somebody else told me it or something like that. But then that's so funny to hear like people have been using that.
it's actually very commonly used. Yeah. Well, and even Saint, oh my goodness, Saint Maximilian Kolbe drew that distinction too. I think he actually said in one of his works that the Masonic Lodge does the work of the synagogue, is like his words essentially. But the funniest thing is Thomas Bokenotter's just seething about Umberto Benigni, and he like starts his biography where he's like, Monsignor Umberto Benigni lacked the firebrand air of a leader of the social counter-revolution. A bespectacled, roly-poly Italian priest, he worked out of a small, poorly equipped office of the Corso Umberto First in Rome, assisted by only 4 Polish nuns. Yet he was a dangerous and cunning man, the extent of whose activities went unfathomed by friend and foe alike. This unprepossessing cleric was the creator and controller of a worldwide network of Catholic informants devoted to doing as much damage as they could to the liberal, democratic, modernist elements within the church.
Let's go.
Armed with his secret dossiers, he kept on the private lives of every member of the Curia and countless others. Benigni waged a decades-long war on behalf of integralist Catholicism and in defense of the church faithful to Pius IX's syllabus of errors. Let's freaking go,
awesome.
dude.
I love him.
Like,
I don't even know
he's
but I love him.
He's trying to write this to make me hate him, and I'm like, dude, new icon that I'm gonna promote his canonization.
Who wrote that? Who wrote
that? So Thomas Bokenetter, who is a Jesuit priest. The book talks about like liberalism or whatever. Actually, the book's pretty all right. Like it's one of those books like written by a liberal where it's kind of like not like heterodox. It's like Father John O'Malley's like Vatican I, the Council in the Making of the Ultramontane Church, which is awesome. It is such a based book. Like he talks about how basically like anti-liberalism and like unrepentant like Catholicism drove the First Vatican Council. I'm like, let's fricking go, man. That's so awesome.
King.
And then these homies are like, here's why that's bad.
Spexo, if Fortnite released Passion of the Christ skin, would you buy it? No, because that would be blasphemy. That would not be good to do that.
Yeah, no, that would be totally blasphemous.
Like I remember.
Also, we shouldn't be depicting our Lord in memes or anything like that either.
Yeah, there's a lot like the Chad Christ memes, some or whatever, but like the people that like, I don't know, there's something weird about that. About like when people post like Christ holding like a Pepe the Frog or something, I don't like that. Or like, I don't know, or like Christ's face like photoshopped on like a jacked bodybuilder. I don't like that's. I think that's wrong too. And I remember there was
That's
like
kind of wrong.
There was like, but there's some like, I mean, I think they're cringe memes now because they're overplayed. But like the one where it's like, stop giving me your toughest battles, you're my toughest soldiers. Okay, whatever. But I don't know. I think that you should probably avoid depicting Christ in most memes. I think. What else was I gonna say? Oh, and there was like this video game somebody made that like you could play as like Trump, Christ, or I don't know, somebody else, Hitler or somebody or whatever, and like you like go around killing gay people or whatever, and everybody like, oh, this is so cool and based. It's like, no, you shouldn't be making a video game of our Lord and Savior like that. That's just not cool. It's not funny. That's where the line is drawn. All right, like that because it is a commandment that we do not blaspheme Christ, right? Like I'm fine with like edgy jokes and racist jokes, rape jokes, all that stuff or whatever, even like some ultra like stuff that like is really bad, like, but when it comes to like Christ and anything holy, you shouldn't even make fun of that at all, like even in a lighter sense too, you know?
No. It's not appropriate, and we have to think about the way that we're talking, and we have to think about the language that we're using in relation to our Lord. Like our Lord loves us, man. Should we be talking about a way that doesn't bring him glory? I don't think so.
Yeah, and even when we're joking around and we're in company of people, like it's fine to joke and stuff, and we all make like edgy jokes or whatever, but like it's also important to remember that we are supposed to be prudent with like every word that we say. We're supposed to think about everything we say before we say it. There was like, I think you mentioned some saint that said something like this, that he would just like remain quiet most of the time and like wouldn't talk, or people that took vows of silence because they didn't want to say anything that could possibly be scandalizing or something along those lines. Like we are supposed to, God gave us the ability to communicate with language, and we're supposed to like appreciate that and use it in the correct manner. That's why we're not supposed to use profanity if we can avoid it. That's why we're not supposed to like, you know, say things that could cause scandal or whatever.
Well, and I mean, there's a ton of saints in the Philokalia that talk about how language, even good language, is too much. Like you need to most of the time only speak when absolutely necessary, and otherwise remain silent, because it becomes a means of distraction, and becomes a means of glorifying ourselves. And so what we have to do is the words that we do need to speak need to be our Lord's words. And then otherwise we shouldn't really speak at all, you know?
Big facts. All right. I think that does it. I think we're good. We got like
I think so too.
2 hours and 45 minutes. I think that's pretty good. All right. So, PineSap is not active on Telegram, but you could still follow him at t.me/thenarrowway, right?
Yes, sir.
And me, t.me/Spexo. Thank you, everybody, for joining. God bless you, and see you next time. Bye.